Germany of Iron and Blood. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 526, Steady Progress. While the literary and art circles all over the world are arguing about the German army attacking Paris and brazenly using heavy artillery and planes to destroy those places of interest, the army attacking Paris seems to have not been affected at all. The four German armies that attacked Paris are still attacking in an orderly manner according to the predetermined plan. Dozens of infantry divisions were thrown into the attack in turn, and the British and French allied forces stationed in Paris were retreating steadily and suffered heavy losses. In just one day, the defense lines of the British and French allied forces outside Paris fell. The German army invaded the urban area of Paris and began fierce street fighting with the British and French allied forces. Of course, this is because of the dispatch of armored troops. Coupled with the fierce shelling and bombing of the German army, the defensive positions of the British and French allied forces were plowed several times. Under such circumstances, the British and French allied forces naturally could not resist the German attack. After entering the urban area of Paris, the German armored forces stopped their actions. Knowing that the British and French allied forces have been equipped with a large number of anti-tank weapons, of course the German armored forces cannot enter the urban area of Paris to take risks. In that case, it will undoubtedly increase the number of German tank losses. Although, the number of German tank production has already increased. But every tank crew is precious. Even, those crew members are much more precious than the tank itself. Qin Tian didn't want his elite tank soldiers to lose too much. Boom. Boom. On a street, a company of the German army is storming a position of the French army. This is a street more than 200 meters long and 20 meters wide. On both sides of the street, there were originally tall buildings. However, under the heavy shelling of the German army, the tall buildings on both sides of the street have collapsed, and the entire street has basically become ruins. However, even so, the French soldiers still resisted the German attack in the ruins. In the eyes of these French soldiers, they probably have no way out now. Their capital has been destroyed by the Germans. The only thing they can do now is probably to continue fighting in the ruined capital until the Germans are defeated or they are killed by the Germans. It is precisely because of this that the French army's will to resist is still tenacious. The 60mm mortar was firing crazily, and the gunner almost used the mortar's maximum rate of fire. One after another, the shells smashed into the positions of the French army, blowing up dust and splashing earth and rocks. With such a fierce shelling, the French on the ground should all be dead. A second lieutenant platoon leader said. "Second lieutenant, take your troops and launch an attack." The captain and company commander ordered. "Yes, sir." The second lieutenant platoon leader nodded. Soon, dozens of German soldiers, bowing their waists, groped towards the French position. However, not long after these German soldiers went out, two Hotkiss machine guns started firing on the French position, and at the same time, many rifles also joined the shooting. The intensive firepower caused several attacking German soldiers to be killed on the spot. Seeing that the situation was not good, the other people quickly lay down on the ground, not daring to move forward. However, when the French army's machine guns fired, they couldn't even retreat, and they fell into a dilemma. Damn it. All the mortars and grenade launchers are added to the shelling. Use the shells to tear up all those Frenchmen. The captain and company commander ordered. Suddenly, 3 60mm mortars, 2 80mm mortars, and 9 grenadiers all joined the attack. Shells and grenades fell on the French army's position like raindrops, and the sound of explosions came and went, and the whole area was shrouded in gunpowder smoke. A few minutes later, the captain and company commander gave the order to attack. This time the attack did not meet resistance. When the German soldiers attacked the French position, they discovered that there was nothing on the position, except dozens of corpses. Obviously, after being heavily bombarded by the German army, the French troops retreated immediately. Fierce battles unfold in the city of Paris. Even the city, already under shelling and bombing by the German army, is about to be turned into ruins. However, the resistance of the British and French allied forces was still very fierce. They fought fiercely with the German army in the city. Every street, every house, and even every ruin needed fierce fighting before they could decide where they belonged. Especially those French soldiers, they launched attacks without fear of death, as if they were not afraid of death at all. In comparison, although the resistance of those British soldiers was tenacious, they were not so desperate. It's no wonder that this is the capital of the French after all, and for the French, it has an inseparable feeling. But for the British, they just regard this place as a battlefield. The defense division of the British and French allied forces in the city of Paris is mainly the defense area of the French 10th Army defending the north of the Seine, and the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Forces responsible for the defense area of the south of the Seine. The 100,000 troops of the French First Army served as a reserve team, filling in wherever there was a problem. Although, the Anglo-French coalition forces in Paris have 500,000 troops. However, under the siege of the German army, their strength still seemed insufficient. Especially when the German army cleared the way with powerful firepower, it caused great losses to the British and French allied forces. So much so that they were beaten back by the German army, and the entire defense line was in a major collapse. On the contrary, the German offensive is advancing steadily. Every attack was supported by powerful firepower. In street fighting, the German army often acts alone in infantry companies or platoons. Every infantry company and infantry platoon has mortars and grenades, which makes them have extremely strong infantry support firepower in street battles. At the same time, the artillery positions deployed outside Paris also always obey their calls. Once necessary, the artillery positions outside the city can cover a large area with artillery fire to the designated area. Under this tactical attack by the German army, the British and French allied forces naturally suffered heavy losses and were unable to resist. This is why the German army was able to achieve considerable results at a very small cost in street fighting. General Manstein, is the troop advancing smoothly? Qin Tian asked. Your Highness, everything is going well. Although the resistance of the British and French coalition forces is very tenacious, the losses they can cause us are very slight. The entire battle is under our control, Major General Manstein said. Qin Tian nodded, and then he was relieved. Chapter 527, Can't Stand It Anymore. Paris Garrison Headquarters, the headquarters located underground, has poor air circulation, which makes it feel a little stuffy after staying here for a long time. Although the ventilation system has been modified, it also leaves a lot to be desired. However, in general, staying in the underground command is much safer than fighting the Germans on the ground. The German army bombarded the city of Paris violently, and some shells also hit the building on the underground headquarters, and the entire building collapsed. However, the reinforced basement was not affected by this, which shows how strong the defense here is, and this also made the officers of the British and French allied forces working here feel relieved. However, this only means that they live a little longer than the British and French forces stationed outside. Once the defense line on the ground was broken by the German army, the whole of Paris fell into the hands of the German army, and they also had nowhere to hide. Your Excellency, the German offensive is very fierce, and the troops on the front line have lost a lot. If this continues, we may soon be unable to resist. Alan B., commander of the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force, went up will complain. In just 2 days, his troops lost more than 20% of their strength. If this continues, his troops will be wiped out in a few days. At that time, he will become a polished commander. This is undoubtedly unacceptable to Admiral Allenby. General Allenby, the whole of Paris is being attacked by the Germans in all directions, and nowhere is safe. Our losses are also very large. Admiral Gallieni sighed. The losses of his 10th Army were no less than those of the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force. It's just that he persevered. What's more, he is also very clear about the performance of the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force on the battlefield. However, for the sake of the overall situation, he didn't say all of these. After all, among the troops defending Paris, the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force is also an indispensable and important force. If the two had a conflict because of this, it would be very detrimental to the ensuing battle. Your Excellency, Commander, we have lost more than 20% of the urban area. Moreover, as our space for activities continues to be squeezed, the German offensive is becoming more and more fierce. Our losses are also increasing. Soaring. If this continues, we may not be able to last for a week. Admiral Allenby sighed. Obviously, he has no confidence in the next battle. Actually, not only Admiral Allenby has no confidence in the upcoming battle, but Admirals Gallieni and Despear also don't have much confidence. The strength shown by the Germans in the battle shocked them greatly. In the field before, it can also be said that the strength of the German army is mainly due to their armored forces. However, in the urban street fighting, the German armored units were not dispatched, but the British and French allied forces still could not resist the German attack, even though they had made a large number of deployments in Paris in advance. But in front of the German army, it still seemed so vulnerable. General Allenby, the current situation is indeed very unfavorable to us. However, we must persevere. Even if we persevere for one more day, it is good, and it is beneficial to both of us. Clear, Admiral N, I said. Admiral Allenby nodded. The feeling of stepping towards death made him almost collapse. Of course, Admiral Allenby had already made up his mind. Even in the next battle, they all failed. However, he will definitely not die. He will not fight to the death like these Frenchmen. After all, this was Paris, and he was British, a noble general of the British Army. After Admiral Allenby left, the expressions of Admiral Gallieni and Admiral Despear were a little gloomy. Your Excellency, that guy Allenby is a little shaken. Admiral Despear said. It was unavoidable. The Germans were attacking too hard, and we could not hold them back. Anyone can feel that way when there is no hope in sight. We are, however, of the French Republic. Soldiers, the British can despair, but we cannot. For the French Republic, we must persevere. Admiral Gallieni said. Admiral Despear nodded. Indeed, the British can despair, but they cannot. In the defense of Paris, the British were unlikely to be reliable. However, they themselves need to do their best. Otherwise, once they lose the courage to continue fighting, Paris may fall soon. The fierce attack of the German army caused heavy losses to the British and French allied forces defending Paris. In the face of the onslaught of the German army, it was impossible for the British and French allied forces to resist tenaciously. Not even a counterattack could be done. Especially the British Expeditionary Force. Once they suffered heavy losses, they retreated immediately. Unlike the French army, which occasionally fought to the death, the French government has fled to Orleans, France. And, after taking a short break here, we will continue to head south. There are two destinations for them, one is Bordeaux and the other is Toulouse. In the eyes of these senior officials of the French government, the farther south they go, the safer they are, so that they can be farther away from those devil-like Germans. Your Excellency, how is the battle in Paris? President Poincaré asked. Your Excellency, the fierce battle is still going on. The Germans were not fooled. They used a lot of heavy artillery and aircraft in their attack on Paris. Under the fierce German attack, Paris was almost in ruins. Minister of War Alexander Millerand was sentimental. President Poincaré, even more so. A trace of ending flashed across his face. He knew that the battle in Paris must be very difficult. This undoubtedly means that it is impossible for the British and French allied forces to defend Paris. The future of France will be bleak. Even President Poincaré regretted it a little. If he had made peace with the Germans when the previous battle failed, Paris might be able to keep it. At least it would not be destroyed by the Germans, like it is now. It's a pity that it's too late to say this now. They chose to continue to resist, so they had no choice but to bite the bullet and continue fighting. Until one day, there is really no other way. Chapter 528, Live or Die. Sir, the British have built a strong defensive position in front. The firepower points are all located in our shooting blind spots, and it is difficult to destroy them. A second lieutenant officer reported to a captain company commander. The captain and the commander couldn't help frowning. Is it feasible to send snipers to go around and attack them? Sir, snipers have been tried, but the British are very cunning. The second lieutenant reported. Contact the battalion headquarters. We need reinforcement. Request artillery to bombard this area. I want to see if the British position can withstand the bombardment of heavy artillery. The captain ordered. Yes, sir. Their requirements were conveyed to the division headquarters layer by layer. The division immediately issued an order to the artillery position. Coincidentally, a 150mm heavy howitzer position had just completed its support mission. After receiving the request from this infantry company, they were responsible for the shelling. 6 150mm heavy howitzers immediately began to turn their muzzles and aimed at the intended target. Fire! With the commander's order, 6 150mm heavy howitzers started a violent shelling. Boom. 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 Accompanied by loud bangs, the shells whizzed away one after another. In the urban area of Paris, this infantry company of the German army is still waiting. The soldiers were all lying in the bunker, so as not to be affected by their own shelling later. In that case, the gain outweighs the loss. Hoo. Soon, there was a roar in the sky. I'm coming. Veterans who have been baptized by war know very well that this is the sound produced by shells piercing the air at high speed. Boom. 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 Soon, artillery shells fell from the sky one after another, hitting the positions of the British army. The shells exploded, and chimneys rose from the British positions. The airwave swept in all directions, and a large amount of earth and rock rushed to the surroundings. There were even quite a few soldiers who were directly swept up by the airwaves. The soldiers of the German army seemed to be shocked by the huge power. My god. This is clearly the power of the 150mm heavy artillery. I didn't expect that the 150mm heavy artillery would be used to support us. The captain and company commander murmured. He originally thought that it would be good to be supported by a 105mm howitzer. If they are unlucky, they may only have 75mm field guns to support them. But now, it was completely beyond his expectation. Of course, the support of large caliber heavy artillery is undoubtedly of great benefit to them. Under the fierce shelling of these 150mm heavy artillery, the positions of the British army are gradually being turned into ruins. The British soldiers stationed in this position knew without thinking that they must have suffered heavy losses. This makes it almost impossible for the German army to cause any casualties when attacking here. The German fire support lasted for 10 minutes. During these 10 minutes, more than 200 150mm artillery shells hit the position of the British army. When the gunpowder smoke cleared, the position of the British army had become a mess, with big craters everywhere. As for the British soldiers stationed in this position, they had disappeared. There were only stumps and broken arms left on the ground, and even pieces of mincemeat. These all show how terrifying the shelling just now was. When the soldiers of the German army walked to this position, after seeing this scene, all of them turned pale. Even after seeing the piles of minced meat, he vomited even more. It is estimated that they will not want to eat meat for a long time. When the German army called for artillery support in large numbers, the British and French allied forces could not resist at all. The fortifications they built could not withstand the shelling of heavy artillery at all, and their own artillery has almost lost a long time ago. The artillery suppression of the German army, coupled with their strikes, made the artillery of the British and French allied forces the first to be disabled in this battle. The remaining artillery, also because of the heavy losses, can no longer play a big role. It can be said that this battle has completely evolved into a battle in which the British and French allied forces were passively beaten. The position of the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force, located near the Catholic Church on the north bank of the Seine. It is also a headquarters located underground. After all, the command post on the ground is too dangerous. Once it is bombarded or bombed by German heavy artillery, it may be bombed down. Admiral Allenby cherishes his own life very much. General, more than half of the 33rd Infantry Division has been lost, and the division commander requests to retreat. A staff officer reported to Admiral Allenby. Retreat? Their defense zone is only a few kilometers away from my headquarters. If they retreat, wouldn't the Germans attack my headquarters directly? Tell them not to retreat. Admiral Allenby ordered road. Yes, General. A few minutes later, another staff officer reported that the British 37th Infantry Division requested support. Tell the 37th Infantry Division that I have no reinforcement in my hands. Therefore, there is no way to support him. Now, they can only rely on their own strength to persevere. Admiral Allenby said. Admiral Allenby has already been very impatient by the news of a series of defeats. After the Battle of Paris started, the British and French allied forces have been suppressed. The Germans used heavy artillery and aircraft to inflict great losses on them. It can be said that every moment, their soldiers died in the shelling or bombing of the Germans. What's more terrible is that as the German army's attacks become more and more violent, this means that the British and French allied forces in Paris obviously cannot last long. This is obviously unacceptable to Admiral Allenby. He didn't want to be killed by a shell or a bomb from the Germans in a daze. As a general of the noble British army, he wanted to live on. Damn, we can't go on like this. We can't beat the Germans at all. If we continue to fight, we will only let them die here. This is the capital of the French, and the French and the Germans are desperate. That's what they should be. But we don't have to fight the Germans for the capital of the French at all, Admiral Allenby thought. He began to complain about Sir French. Why did he order their army to defend Paris with the French? Isn't this clearly asking them to die? Thinking of this, Admiral Allenby became extremely impatient. No, I can't die. I have to continue to live. I have to go back to England. I can't die here, Admiral Allenby murmured. As he kept repeating this sentence, his eyes became more and more determined. Chapter 529, Surrender. In this battle, the British and French allied forces will undoubtedly lose. Even Britain and France have no chance of winning in this battle. But why can't those politicians see this at all? If we want to continue the war, it is clear that we are going to die, Admiral Allenby thought. In his opinion, those politicians are really despicable and shameless. Anyway, it was these soldiers who died in the war, and their lives would not be threatened. Therefore, those politicians will always demand that the war continues. No, we can't be at the mercy of those politicians. No matter what, I have to live, Admiral Allenby thought. Although, the British government declared to their generals that the Royal Navy is still making preparations to defeat the German Navy in future naval battles. But Admiral Allenby scoffed at this. He didn't think the Royal Navy was capable of defeating the German Navy. After all, in the last naval battle, the Royal Navy had already suffered a crushing defeat. What was lost was not only those capital ships, but also a large number of elite officers and soldiers, as well as the confidence of the troops. Under such circumstances, even if the Royal Navy has obtained a large number of warships from the Americans, so what? The Royal Navy's chances of winning are still very low. As for the French Navy and the Italian Navy, Admiral Allenby ignored them. He believes that the navies of these two countries are much weaker than the Royal Navy, and naturally they are even less qualified to confront the German Navy. Thinking of this, Admiral Allenby believed that Britain and France had absolutely no chance of winning in this war. If you want to survive, there seems to be only one choice, and that is to surrender to Germany. In the Battle of Paris, although the losses of the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force were not small, there are still hundreds of thousands of people. If you can surrender to the Germans, this will greatly promote the Germans' rapid occupation of Paris. Among other things, the German army can easily occupy all of the area south of the Seine River defended by the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force. The rest of the northern part of Paris occupied by the French army could not last long under the siege of the German army. So, Admiral Allenby believes that the Germans will definitely accept his surrender. He can even take this opportunity to negotiate some terms with Germany. For example, keep him safe. After the war, he was allowed to return to England and so on. He believed that the German side would never reject his small conditions. After thinking about all this, Admiral Allenby planned to act. He first summoned his adjutant and told his adjutant everything. The adjutant was surprised, but immediately expressed his willingness to obey Admiral Allenby's orders. After all, for the adjutant, he naturally hoped to survive. Anyway, the order to surrender was given by Admiral Allenby, and he was just executing the order. If there is anything wrong, Canal will not blame him. That night, Admiral Allenby summoned several commanders and all division commanders of the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force at the headquarters. These dozen army commanders and division commanders rushed to the headquarters from their own defense zone. Everyone is a little unclear, so I don't know why Admiral Allenby will summon them at this time. After all, the current war is entering the most critical stage. The German attack was fierce, and their losses were mounting. If you are not careful, you may cause greater losses. Under such circumstances, these frontline generals often cheered up to deal with the German attack. Gentlemen, the current battle situation is already very unfavorable to us. After only 3 days of fighting, we have suffered heavy losses. The losses of the French are no less than ours. What do you think about this battle? AI Admiral Lumby asked. These generals looked at each other one by one. I don't know what Admiral Allenby meant by saying that. Seeing that no one spoke, Admiral Allenby continued, the Germans used a lot of heavy artillery and planes to bomb Paris, which made our defense line become dilapidated. We suffered heavy losses from the German shelling and bombing. On the other hand, the Germans were able to win the victory at the lowest cost with strong fire support. General, we are in Paris, and we are indeed unable to stop the German attack. The current efforts are just lingering. A military command aside, we are not fools. As army generals, we can undoubtedly distinguish clearly about the situation in front of us. The other generals also nodded repeatedly. In fact, they are also very negative about this battle. If they didn't have to obey orders, they would not be willing to defend Paris with the French. Since everyone thinks that, if you stick to Paris, you will die, and there is no chance of winning, then why don't we think of other ways? Admiral Allenby said. Many generals were stunned immediately. Some smart people seemed to have guessed Admiral Allenby's intentions, so that they looked at Admiral Allenby with shock in their eyes. After all, Allenby is the commander of the 4th Army of the Expeditionary Force, the general of the army. Given his position and military rank, it would be too unbelievable if he surrendered. Of course, it is undoubtedly understandable to do anything for one's own life. General, what do you mean? A lieutenant general asked. Gentlemen, for your lives. I don't think I can fight any longer. We can surrender to the Germans. Since the battle is doomed, why should there be so many fearless casualties? Instead of letting a large number of officers and soldiers are going to die, it is better to surrender to the Germans, so that everyone can live. Admiral Allenby directly exposed his intentions. Surrender? The generals talked a lot. Everyone, I know that, if you ask everyone to surrender, your honor will be damaged. However, it is up to you to choose whether you want honor or live. Admiral Allenby continued. The generals of the British Army hesitated for a while, but then each of them expressed their willingness to obey the orders of General Allenby. Then, the meaning is undoubtedly obvious, they chose the latter between honor and life. Admiral Allenby was very satisfied with the performance of these generals. Although he had arranged some backhands before, it would undoubtedly be the best if he didn't need it. Chapter 530, Talent. On the night of April 19th, Versailles, the headquarters of the German army, it was rare for Qin Tian to take a break after finishing his day's work. However, his rest didn't last long before being interrupted. Major General Manstein walked into his office. Major General, what's the matter? Qin Tian asked. Qin Tian knew that, if there was nothing urgent, Major General Manstein would not disturb him at this time. Your Highness, the front line reported that they had captured an officer of the British Expeditionary Force. The other party claimed to be the adjutant of Admiral Allenby, the commander of the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force. He had an urgent matter to discuss with us. Major General Manstein said. Adjutant General Allenby, commander of the 4th Army, what are they trying to do? Are they here to surrender? Qin Tian asked. Your Highness, according to my analysis, the British should also come for this purpose. It seems that the high-intensity attack for several days has made the British almost unable to hold on. For the sake of their own lives, they want to surrender. However, it's no wonder. After all, this is the capital of the French, and it has nothing to do with the British. They don't need to go all out for the capital of the French. Major General Manstein said. Qin Tian nodded. Then let the British envoy come in. If the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force can surrender, it will undoubtedly be a great thing for us. Yes, Your Highness. Major General Manstein nodded, and immediately went to make arrangements. A few minutes later, Admiral Allenby's adjutant was brought to Qin Tian's office. Before entering, the guards had searched. Admiral Allenby's adjutant did not have any weapons on him. Even so, there were a few more guards in the office just in case. After all, Qin Tian's identity as the Crown Prince of the German Empire, so noble. If he was assassinated by the enemy, the consequences would undoubtedly be too serious for anyone to bear. Good evening, Your Highness. I'm General Allenby's adjutant, Major Edward. Major Edward took the initiative to salute Qin Tian, speaking German in a very standard manner. This makes the conversation between them without translation at all. Major Edward took the initiative to salute Qin Tian, speaking German in a very standard manner. Please sit down. General Allenby sent you here. What's the matter? Qin Tian asked. Your Highness, General Allenby believes that the British and French allied forces have no chance of winning this battle. He doesn't want to continue the fight. After all, if the fight continues, it will just let the soldiers on both sides die in vain, said Major Edward. Qin Tian nodded. General Allenby can think this way. It is undoubtedly the best. Are you representing the troops of the British and French coalition forces in Paris, or just you? Your Highness, what we can represent is only the 4th Army of the Expeditionary Force. We cannot represent the French, Major Edward said. Qin Tian was not surprised by this. The fighting will and determination of the French were obviously stronger than that of the British. After all, this is their capital, and they cannot retreat. Seeing that the situation is not good, the British can surrender. But it may not be so easy to get the French to surrender. Major, does General Allenby have any conditions? Qin Tian asked straight to the point. Your Highness, General Allenby hopes that you can promise to ensure the safety of the lives and property of the remaining hundreds of thousands of soldiers and soldiers of the 4th Expeditionary Army, and to ensure our food and medicine supply before the end of the war, and the wounded soldiers will also receive proper treatment. Cannot force prisoners of war to work. After the war is over, we will be released and return to the UK, Major Edward said. Qin Tian nodded. Such a condition is not harsh. If the hundreds of thousands of British people continue to resist, even if the German army has strong firepower as support, but in the battle, there will be no small price to pay. Among other things, tens of thousands of casualties are inevitable. After the British surrendered, they saved tens of thousands of troops, and saved the lives of tens of thousands of young men. In addition, after the British surrendered, the entire south of Paris fell into the control of the German army. The German army can gather its forces and attack north of Paris. There are only more than 200,000 French troops, and it is almost impossible to resist the siege of the 4 German armies. In this case, the German army will be able to win quickly in the Battle of Paris. Major, please tell General Allenby that I agree to his terms. After the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force surrendered to us, I promise to guarantee the safety of your lives and property. Of course, those who the British Army looted in Paris, you cannot take cultural relics away. After the war is over, I will release you and allow you to return to England. Qin Tian said. Your Highness, I will tell General Allenby. Major Edward did not expect that Qin Tian would be so eloquent. Of course, this also means that the conditions of both parties have been reached. Then, there is no problem with the surrender of the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force to the Germans. After Major Edward left happily, Qin Tian summoned General Crook, commander of the 1st Army Corps, and General Dimlin, commander of the 5th Army Corps, and informed them that the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force was about to surrender. Admiral Crook and Admiral Dimlin were taken aback for a moment. They did not expect that the entire British army would surrender. However, this is obviously a good thing for the German army. Your Highness, this is a great thing. We should agree to their conditions. Admiral Crook said. Yes, Your Highness. After the British surrendered, only the French remained. In this case, we still have a few days at most before we can conquer Paris. Admiral Dimling also said excitedly. Qin Tian nodded. Since this is the case, then I will fully accept the conditions of the British. Everything is aimed at accepting the war as soon as possible. Qin Tian was also very interested in Admiral Allenby, commander of the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force. There is no doubt that this is a talent who can see the situation clearly, especially after learning that the plan to force the German army to abandon the attack on Paris with heavy artillery and planes was also written by him. Qin Tian became even more optimistic about him. In the future, after the German army lands in the British Isles and overthrows the British government, it is also necessary to consolidate its rule in the UK. This also means that Germany needs to support its own agents in the UK. Admiral Allenby, who voluntarily surrendered to Germany, is undoubtedly a very suitable candidate. Therefore, Qin Tian intends to take a good look at it next time, and if Admiral Allenby is willing to serve Germany, he will focus on supporting him in the future. Chapter 531, Shameless. The strategy of the German army, after defeating France, is about to attack Britain. Of course, the prerequisite is that Britain does not surrender. In this case, the German army will land in Britain. However, Qin Tian wished that the British would not surrender. In this way, the powerful German army will have the opportunity to land on the British Isles and smash Britain into ruins. Although, it is inevitable that Britain will lose in this war. However, Qin Tian had to admit that Britain's industrial foundation was still very strong, and they would be able to rearm if given a period of development. At that time, for Germany, it will also be a big threat. Therefore, Qin Tian wanted to take advantage of this war to defeat Britain once and for all, and completely solve it. What's more, if it is a negotiation, no matter what kind of harsh conditions are proposed, it will undoubtedly be much worse than defeating Britain, and then slaughtering it at will. After defeating Britain, Germany can slaughter Britain according to its own intentions, and the British have no way to object to this. They have become meat on the chopping board. What's more, after the flames of war are burned to the British mainland, it will undoubtedly be a huge blow to the British industry. In addition, Qin Tian also planned that after the war, the new British government cabinet must be a pro-German government cabinet. In this way, it is possible to ensure that Germany's interests in the United Kingdom are guaranteed. At the same time, Britain was also under German control. This requires supporting a group of pro-German talents. General Allenby, commander of the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force, is undoubtedly a very suitable candidate. If he can show his loyalty to Germany, it is entirely possible for him to be a Minister of War in the future British government. General Allenby, commander of the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force, was circling in his office. Now he is also very summoned. He feared that the German side would not accept his surrender. Although, he thinks this possibility is undoubtedly very small. However, he was also afraid of accidents. No, absolutely not. The Germans will not refuse our request. Our surrender will be very beneficial to the Germans. Admiral Allenby told himself like this, as if doing so would say with confidence. General, I'm back. Major Edward reported. Major, what do the Germans say? Have they accepted our request? Admiral Allenby asked hastily. General, the Germans agreed to our request. They almost agreed to our request. It's just that they asked us not to take away the cultural relics looted from Paris. Major Edward said. Admiral Allenby frowned, but finally nodded. Although, with the intention of making a fortune, they quietly looted a lot of cultural relics and antiques from all over Paris. Originally, I planned to bring these things back to the country and sell them after the war was over, and I could make a lot of money. But unexpectedly, the Germans would not allow them to do so. Admiral Allenby thought about it, and in the end, saving his life was the most important thing. Only by saving his life can the rest be successful. Okay, Major, please tell the Germans that we accept their conditions and hand over all the cultural relics and antiques to them. Admiral Allenby said. Yes, General. Major Edward breathed a sigh of relief at this time. He was still a little worried that General Allenby would not agree. Now it seems that he is completely worrying too much. With Admiral Allenby's greed for life and fear of death, how could he refuse the Germans' request? Major Edward rushed to the German headquarters overnight to inform the German army about this and discuss the specific matters of surrender. Admiral Allenby also summoned the commanders and division commanders of the 4th Army of the Expeditionary Army and informed them that an agreement had basically been reached with Germany. This news made the generals of the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force very satisfied. Finally, no need to die. Many people breathed a sigh of relief, and there was an expression of the rest of life on their faces. Subsequently, the German army and the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force negotiated and surrendered in the early morning of April 21st. At that time, the German army will enter the southern city of Paris and take over the defense area of the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force. The reason why the time is set at this time is, on the one hand, to deceive people. Another aspect is for the sake of subsequent operations. At present, the bridge connecting Paris to the cities on both sides of the Seine River has not been blown up. The German army also specifically avoided this area when shelling and bombing. After the surrender of the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force, the German army could naturally garrison the south of these bridges secretly, and then attack the north of the bridge at dawn, taking the bridge in one fell swoop. If the bridge can be kept, then the German army's next attack on the northern part of the Seine will be relatively easier. It is even possible to directly attack the French garrison command in Paris. After the British surrendered, the location of the French headquarters would naturally not be kept secret from the German army. Time passed bit by bit, and the German attack on Paris continued. On the French side, it was impossible to imagine that the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force had surrendered. Even those who knew the news were all high-ranking generals, and none of the middle and lower level officers knew anything about it. On the evening of April 20th, the generals of the British Army revealed the news to the middle and lower rank officers. To this, the officers responded differently, but most of them were in favor of surrender. Of course, there are those who refuse to surrender. However, they were quickly arrested. It will not affect the surrender this time. At 2 o'clock in the morning on April 21st, Qin Tian, accompanied by several legion commanders, came to the outskirts of Paris. General Allenby, commander of the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force who had been waiting here, offered his guns to Qin Tian and formally surrendered. At the same time, the German army also secretly entered the southern part of Paris, took over the defense area, and accepted the surrender of the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force. Although the whole process was a little flustered, nothing went wrong, and it was not noticed by the French army on the other side of the Seine. His Royal Highness, the Germans have already won this battle. If the fight continues, it will only cause greater casualties. Therefore, for the sake of the lives of the soldiers, I will surrender to the Germans. Admiral Allenby, putting everything on the sake of the soldiers shows how noble he is. Qin Tian smiled, with a look of approval. General Allenby, you are a brave man and a talent. If one day, the German army can land on the British Isles, then a talent like you will be rewarded important. Admiral Allenby's eyes suddenly brightened. Chapter 532, Win the Bridge. Admiral Allenby was still regretting his future. After all, to be able to become an army general is an absolute master in the British Empire. After surrendering, all of his things were gone. But now, the meaning in Qin Tian's words seemed to open another door for him, allowing him to see another world. Yes, as a general of the British Army, Allenby has no future. But if, after Germany's defeat of Great Britain, he had a bright future as a man supported by the Germans. God, these Germans seem to have pointed out another way for me. If I can get the support of these Germans, once the British Empire is defeated, then I will become a pivotal figure in the new government. I will even get more than I have now. Higher status and greater power. Thinking of this, Admiral Allenby's heart became hot. Even, he has begun to look forward to his motherland, the British Empire, which is about to lose in this war. Admiral Allenby's thoughts. Qin Tian didn't he know? Even if you know, you won't care. After all, such a traitorous person can be used by him. In the future, Germany will be able to rely on these people to control Britain. Qin Tian's attention was focused on the battle that was about to break out. After the surrender of the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force, the southern part of Paris has fallen into the hands of the German army. Next, only half of the northern part of Paris is still under the control of the French army. If the German army wants to occupy Paris, it has to eliminate the remaining French army. At the military meeting held overnight, several legion commanders began to study tactics. Everyone, the bridges connecting the two urban areas of Paris are currently mainly the Saint-Michel Bridge and the Exchange Bridge built on the Isle de Cedar, as well as the Tunnel Bridge and the Mary Bridge built on the Isle Saint-Louis. If the bridge can fall into our control, then our army can directly attack the northern part of Paris controlled by the French army. Moreover, the headquarters of the French army near the Bastille Square is also very close to us. At that time, we can directly attack the headquarters of the French army. Once the headquarters of the French army falls, it will have a great impact on the French army. It may be that we can easily take the whole of Paris. Qin Tian said, Your Highness, ensuring the safety of several bridges will be the most critical. The French have already planted explosives on the bridges. Therefore, we must seize the bridges as soon as possible. At the same time, ensure that the French artillery does not there will be bombarded of the bridge. Admiral Crook said. Now is undoubtedly a good opportunity for the German army to take Paris as soon as possible and end the battle. Of course, is unwilling to watch this opportunity go away like this. Your Highness, let's use the armored troops to launch an attack. At dawn, the armored troops cross the bridge at the fastest speed, then control the bridgehead, dismantle the explosives, clean up the surrounding French troops, and ensure the safety of the bridge. As for the French artillery, then leave it to the Air Force to deal with it. The Air Force's fighter planes hover over Paris, and once they find the French artillery positions, they will immediately suppress them. As long as we persist in this way for a day, we can quickly expand the results and ensure that the places around the bridge we are under control. At that time, even if the French blow up the bridge, we have already established a firm foothold, and we don't have to be afraid of them anymore. Admiral Dimlin suggested. Qin Tian nodded. It is indeed a good way to use armored troops to seize the bridge. These bridges are only a few hundred meters long. It only takes a minute or so for a tank to pass through the bridge of several hundred meters, which can completely catch the French by surprise. Once the bridge was occupied by the Germans, at the same time the Air Force suppressed the French artillery fire. Then, the German army can take this opportunity to completely occupy the surrounding area of the bridge and send more troops across the river to ensure control of the surrounding area of the bridge and gain a firm foothold. Of course, in this case, the armored forces may suffer considerable losses. However, compared to the entire war, such a loss is undoubtedly worth it. Your Highness, we can also gather artillery to shell the area controlled by the French army, causing further casualties to them, so as to support our bridge defense operation. Major General Manstein also suggested. Well, let's do it like this. Whether the Paris war can be ended as soon as possible depends on this time. Qin Tian said. Yes, Your Highness. Everyone replied. The German 1st Army and 5th Army immediately took action. Both armies have mobilized elite armored soldiers and infantry to prepare for a surprise attack, ensuring that they can take down the bridge over the Seine in one fell swoop during this raid. As for the attack time, it is set at 5 o'clock in the morning. This time is almost the most sleepy time of the day, and the French army is the least likely to detect the German army's actions at this time, which can ensure the suddenness of the German army's actions. Time passed little by little. On the south bank of the Seine, at the bridgeheads of the Saint Michel Bridge and the bridgehead of the Tunnel Bridge, the German armored forces were ready. The most elite units from the 1st and 5th Armored Divisions were about to attack. Among them, the 1st Armored Division was responsible for launching an attack from the Pont Saint Michel. After arriving at the Isle d'Este, the 1st Armored Division entered the northern part of the Seine from the Bridge of Exchange. The 5th Armored Division was responsible for launching the attack from the Pont de Tunnel. After landing on the Isle St. Louis, it attacked the north bank of the Seine from the Pont Mary. In addition, the 1st Infantry Division, 2nd Infantry Division, 41st Infantry Division and 46th Infantry Division will fight together with the armored units. Once the armored troops have successfully crossed the river, they will, with the cooperation of the armored troops, wipe out the nearby French troops and ensure the German occupation of these bridges. And resist the counterattack of the French army. Attack. When the time reached 5 o'clock in the morning, Qin Tian personally gave the order to attack. The tanks started up one after another and then drove onto the bridge with full power and rushed to the other side of the river. Because the bridge deck is not wide, the queue of tanks passes in single file. But even so, the two short bridges would not take much time for these tanks. At this moment, the French army facing the bridge knew nothing at all. Although they heard the rumble of the engine, they didn't pay attention to it and just regarded it as the sound of the British Army's car coming from the south. When the German tanks appeared in their eyes, these French soldiers widened their eyes. Got tanks? German tanks, why are they here? Boom. The tank gun fired, and the fortification of the French army at the bridgehead was blown away by a single shot. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 533, Desperate. Da da da. The German tanks fired while advancing rapidly. The intensive machine gun fire caused the French soldiers, who were in shock, to pay a heavy price. Many French soldiers fell directly into a pool of blood. When more and more German tanks rushed across the bridge, they turned to the massacre of the French army. Those French soldiers seemed to wake up from their shock. They screamed loudly, "Runaways!" The German infantry, also following the tanks, rushed across the bridge and joined the attack. The accompanying engineers immediately removed the explosives planted by the French army to ensure the safety of the bridge. "Arsehole, why did the Germans appear here? Blow up the bridge." The officer in charge of guarding the bridge gave an order. However, their movements were still one step slower. When they pressed the handle to blow up the bridge, there was no explosion at all. "My God. This is over. The Germans cut our explosives line." The officer's face was pale. Obviously, he also knew what it meant to them after the bridge fell into the hands of the Germans. They will be under attack from both sides of the German army. In terms of the strong attack power of the German army, they may not last long at all. Damn the British, why did the Germans come from their defense zone? Were they all killed by the Germans silently? This is obviously impossible. Therefore, this indicates that there is only one possibility. That's when the British surrendered. This is undoubtedly more deadly news for the French army. After the British surrendered, they had to fight alone in Paris. There are more and more German tanks and infantry crossing the river. They began to clear the French army around the bridge according to the predetermined battle plan, expand the results of the battle, and ensure the safety of the bridge. The sudden blow left those counterattack soldiers unprepared at all. Under such circumstances, they naturally refused to withstand the German attack. What's more, the German army invested in armored troops during the offensive. For infantry, weapons such as tanks are inherently deadly, unless their anti-tank weapons can be prepared in advance. But in the case of a sudden blow, how could they be prepared in advance? More and more German troops continued to drive to the north bank of the Seine through the bridge, and invested in the attack on the French army. Place Bastille, French garrison headquarters in Paris. Admirals Gallieni and Despeer had already been woken up. The sudden battle made them wonder what was going on, reporting to the general, "A large number of German tanks and infantry have poured into the north bank of the Seine through the bridge. Now, the German army is attacking our position. We have no preparations at all, so that we are in the throes of the German attack. We are retreating in defeat," the officer reported. What the asterisk is going on here? How did the Germans pass through the British defense zone? Admiral Gallieni looked angry, although he had already thought of a reason in his heart. However, he was unwilling to face it. "General, according to our analysis, the British should have surrendered secretly. Otherwise, the Germans would not have taken the bridge so easily," the officer said. "Damn, those despicable and shameless British. They actually surrendered behind our backs." Admiral Gallieni cursed. "Your Excellency Commander, it is useless to scold the British now. Let us think about how to face the current crisis. After the British surrendered, we will face the double attack of the Germans. This is for us, is undoubtedly a disaster," Admiral Despeer said. Admiral Gallieni thought for a while, and then said, "Immediately order the artillery to fire on the bridge. In any case, the bridge must be blown up. Otherwise, more and more Germans will enter the northern city through the bridge. At that time, it will be even more difficult for us to resist their attacks." "Yes, General." The staff officer immediately went to convey the order. "General Despeer, the troops of the First Army, counterattack the bridge immediately. If the artillery fails, it is up to you. If the bridge can be destroyed, we have a chance to resist. Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't be able to hold on any longer," Admiral Gallieni said. Admiral Despeer nodded. He naturally knew that the most critical moment had come. The artillery of the French army has been destroyed a lot in the previous battles. The rest are very limited in number. But this time, in order to blow up the bridge, the French army assembled all the heavy artillery. For a strong bridge, the shells of the 75mm field gun may not be powerful enough. If you want to destroy the bridge, you may need to hit a lot of shells in a row. Therefore, it mainly relies on the 105mm howitzer. However, Germany has long been prepared for this. The French 105mm cannon had just fired when it was suppressed by German artillery from across the river. The German 105mm howitzers and 150mm howitzers, which had already been prepared, opened fire violently to suppress the French artillery positions to ensure the safety of the bridge. At the same time, the German Air Force also appeared in the sky. Bombers carrying bombs began to bomb the French artillery positions. Fighters also strafed with aviation machine guns. During the German bombing and shelling, the French artillery positions suffered heavy losses. Many cannons were destroyed before they even had time to fire. Although some French cannons fired, the shells fell into the river hastily and did not cause any damage to the two bridges. The artillerymen of the French army are also very brave. In the face of German artillery suppression and bombing, he has been sticking to his post until he is killed. However, their efforts were still unsuccessful. They were not able to destroy the bridge until their cannon and artillery were exhausted. The troops of the First French Army launched a fierce attack on the German troops entering the northern city of Paris. However, they certainly caused a lot of casualties to the German army, especially the heavy casualties of the armored forces. However, it was still unable to advance the battle line to the vicinity of the bridge. As more and more German troops crossed the bridge, the task of the French First Army could not be completed at all. After half a day of fierce fighting, the French First Army suffered heavy losses and had to withdraw from the battle. This made their attempts to destroy the bridge all hopeless. Chapter 534, Conquering Paris. Your Excellency, Commander, it's over. We are over. My troops have been severely damaged by the Germans. A large number of Germans are passing the bridge continuously. It is impossible for us to regain the bridge. Admiral Ley looked frustrated. Admiral Despere's First Army, the remaining 100,000 troops, launched a fierce attack on the army that entered the north of Paris through the bridge from the south. However, 100,000 people fought for a whole day, and apart from causing heavy losses to themselves, there was no other result at all. The German army has firmly occupied the bridge on the Seine River and is continuously transporting troops to the north bank of the Seine River through the bridge. This is undoubtedly a heavy blow to the French army, stationed in the northern part of the Seine. After the British army surrendered, the French army fell into a lonely battle. Their strength is only equivalent to less than 1/3 of the German army. The morale of the troops has even dropped to a low point. If it weren't for the fact that they were fighting to protect their capital, the army might have collapsed long ago. But even so, with the increasing losses, the collapse of the troops seems inevitable. Admiral Gallieni nodded. He actually had no confidence in the First Army's attack. After all, the German army is too strong. If the Seine is blocked, it may be difficult for the German army to reach the north of the Seine. However, after several bridges easily fell into the hands of the German army, the natural moat of the Seine no longer existed. With the strong combat effectiveness of the German army, it is naturally difficult for the French army to defeat the German army. General Despere, the current situation is very critical. Under the siege of the Germans, we may not be able to hold on for long. Admiral Gallieni's face was livid. Yes, Your Excellency, Commander. Admiral Despere was also very pessimistic about the current battle situation. I have asked someone to report the situation here to His Excellency the President. Before receiving the order from His Excellency the President, let us continue to resist, Admiral Gallieni said. Admiral Despere nodded in agreement. At this moment, the French government is heading south. After a brief rest in Orleans, they continued to go south. The destination is Bordeaux. The French government is preparing to move there first and wait for the changes in the current situation. After receiving the telegram from Paris, President Poincaré left to convene the cabinet ministers to discuss countermeasures. Damn the British, they betrayed us. How could they do that? President Poincaré was very angry. You know, in this war, Britain and France have always been the closest allies. They fought side by side against Germany. Britain sent millions of expeditionary troops to fight in France, and the French Navy also sent its main fleet to Britain to prepare for the second decisive battle with the French Navy. It can be said that both countries have tried their best to defeat Germany. But now, at this most critical juncture, the entire army of the British Expeditionary Force actually betrayed France and surrendered directly to the Germans and put the French defenders stationed in Paris in an extremely dangerous situation. This is clearly stabbing the Frenchman from the back. Your Excellency, this should not be the intention of the British government, but the generals of the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force. I believe that the British government will not do that. After all, we will have closer cooperation in the future, said Prime Minister René Viviani. Yes, Your Excellency the President. I agree with the Prime Minister's opinion. The sudden betrayal of the British is a serious blow to us. However, this should be nothing more than an isolated incident. Generally speaking, the British are still fighting against us Germany. After all, our navy has launched in-depth cooperation. Minister Alexander Millerand said. Poincaré nodded in general, and he believed it too. After all, if France is defeated, it will be of absolutely no benefit to the British. When the time comes, when they are alone, they will definitely not be the opponents of the Germans. The surrender this time should be that those guys from the 4th Army of the Expeditionary Army surrendered to the Germans without authorization, because they were greedy for their lives and fear of death. But even this made President Poincaré very angry. Report this to the British and let them give us an explanation. President Poincaré said through gritted teeth. Yes, Your Excellency the President. The Foreign Minister nodded. Your Excellency, what should we do about the war in Paris? The British betrayed and allowed the Germans to occupy the bridge over the Seine. General Gallieni and the others, it is difficult to hold on. Minister Alexander Millerand said. President Poincaré hesitated for a moment and then said, General Gallieni and the others, let them decide for themselves. If they think they can't hold on, they can do it cheaply. Yes, Your Excellency. Minister Alexander Millerand nodded. This undoubtedly means that, in the case of a very unfavorable battle situation, Admiral Gallieni and others can choose whether to continue to resist or directly surrender to the Germans in order to save the lives of most people. Even if Admiral Gallieni and others choose to surrender, no one will blame them. After all, the current situation is so unfavorable, it is not easy for them to persist until this moment. In response to the surrender of the 4th Army of the British Expeditionary Force to the German Army, France protested strongly to the British government. The British government was also very angry about this matter. They hoped to use the French to delay time, while weakening the strength of the Germans as much as possible. Now, the French were stabbed in the back by the British Expeditionary Force. No wonder the French are quite angry about this. The British government assured France that this is just an isolated case. Like France, Britain hopes to continue the war. In order to appease France, the British government even said that Admiral Allenby would be tried. Of course, Admiral Allenby is now staying in a German prisoner of war camp and can only conduct trials in absentia. But this undoubtedly showed an attitude to the French. In the end, the British court-martial sentenced Admiral Allenby to hang. It's just that they never had the chance to execute it. The German attack on Paris became more intense. Under the onslaught of the German army, the French army suffered heavy losses. 3 days later, the French army staying in Paris surrendered to the German army in a desperate execution. The commander of the Paris garrison, General Gallieni, chose to commit suicide by swallowing a gun. Chapter 535, Kill Everything. On the morning of April 25, 1915, Qin Tian, accompanied by a group of senior German generals and escorted by the guards, entered Paris. Paris at this moment has been completely reduced to ruins. There are charred rubble and collapsed buildings everywhere. The streets are densely covered with large and small bomb craters. Here, it no longer looks like a world-famous cultural city. Because the streets are full of bomb craters, cars are impassable. Qin Tian and the others had no choice but to walk. Walking in such a city full of ruins, Qin Tian was very moved. Sure enough, destruction is much easier than creation. It has been more than 1,000 years since Paris was founded. It took thousands of years of development to create this city in the civilized world. However, in just 1 week, the German army blew up the city into ruins inside and out. Boom. In the distance, there were sporadic gunshots, which made the guards around them very nervous. However, Qin Tian did not panic at all. He is undoubtedly very confident in the strength of his guards. After all, these guards are carefully selected elites from the army. The surrounding commanding heights are also full of snipers. If he was assassinated under such circumstances, he would really deserve to die. Is the resistance in the city still young and fierce? Qin Tian asked. Your Highness, there are only some sporadic resistance. Most of the French have chosen to surrender to us. Only a handful of people have chosen to continue fighting. We have already mobilized our troops, and we will deal with those French troops who persist. The suppression has been carried out. Under the strangling of the snipers, these Frenchmen will not last long. It is estimated that in another 3 to 5 days, they will all be wiped out. Admiral Crook said. After the French army surrendered to the German army and the whole of Paris fell into the hands of the German army, the 4 legions of the German army sent troops into Paris to take charge of the defense here and the task of clearing up the remnants of the enemy. Overall, the progress is pretty good. Paris has been taken by us. Are those French still obsessed? It is of no benefit for them to continue to fight. The commander of the Second Army, General Below, said. No matter what, we are the aggressors in the eyes of these French people. They should attack us. It's just that their behavior is completely like a car. Lieutenant General Ludendorff said. Obviously, when the whole of Paris fell under the control of the German army, the behavior of these French people was no different from courting death. Of course, there is nothing wrong with them fighting for their country. Qin Tian and his party walked all the way to the Seine River. The cities on both sides of the strait have been reduced to ruins. However, the river is still flowing quietly, as if it has not been affected at all. The Eiffel Tower, once world-renowned, has collapsed under the shelling and bombing of the German army. A section of the pagoda fell into the river. Looking at all this, Qin Tian said, everyone, we may be serious in those literary and art circles, and have become barbarians who destroy civilization. Haha, what about the barbarians? As long as we can win the war, even if we bear these infamy, what is it? Said General Dimlin, commander of the 5th Army. Yes, we are soldiers, not so-called artists. Those cultural relics, in our opinion, are worthless. It is impossible for us to exchange the lives of soldiers for these useless things. Admiral Crook said. The other generals also nodded repeatedly. As soldiers, how do they think about winning? Or how to win at the least cost? As for other people's opinions, they simply ignored them. Paris has been turned into ruins, and there is nothing to see. Therefore, Qin Tian and the others left Paris and returned to Versailles after taking a casual look around the city. This made the entourage, especially the officers and soldiers of the guards, breathe a sigh of relief. After all, there are still resisting French people in the city. What if something unexpected happens? After returning to Versailles, Qin Tian and several group army commanders went directly into the war room to discuss the next stage of operations. Your Highness, all generals. After we took Paris, the strength of the British and French coalition forces has been hit hard like never before. Now, the troops of the British and French coalition forces are mainly the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 5th troops of the French army. The 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 11th, and 12th are 10 group armies. The British Expeditionary Forces only left with the 1st Army and the 5th Army, although the Anglo-French allied forces have many numbers. However, their strength has already not many. Among them, the 2nd Army of the French Army was almost completely wiped out by us in the Battle of Champagne-Châlons. The remaining armies, except for the 11th and 12th armies, were all that was severely damaged in the morning. The remaining strength of the French army is only about 1 million. Moreover, the French 11th Army and 12th Army are still newly formed troops, and they are not even fully equipped with heavy weapons, let alone combat effectiveness. Yes, the 1st Army of the British Expeditionary Force was severely damaged by our army in Rouen, and also suffered heavy losses. The remaining troops in the army were less than 100,000. At the same time, the 5th Army of the British Expeditionary Force was also a newly formed force. The combat effectiveness is also very poor. In addition, according to the information we have received, the French government has issued an order to form 3 more group armies. In this case, the total strength of the British and French coalition forces will be about 2 million. Major General Manstein introduced. The total strength of the British and French allied forces still seems to be more than that of the German Western Front. However, in terms of combat effectiveness, the German army can easily defeat them. The troops of the British and French allied forces, except for the disabled troops, are newly formed troops. How much combat power can we count on such a force? Even when facing the elite troops of the British and French allied forces, the German army can easily win, let alone when facing these mobs, everyone, although we have captured Paris. However, the French do not seem to intend to surrender. It seems that they still want to continue fighting. The 2 million British and French coalition forces may be their confidence. If we do not continue, if we defeat them, and make them pay a heavy price, they will not bow their heads and beg us for mercy. Therefore, this battle will continue until we completely defeat the French, Qin Tian said. Since the French are ignorant, don't blame him for killing them all. Chapter 536, Running to the Sea. Let the 6th and 7th armies go south from Verdun, capture Lyon, and fight all the way to Marseilles. The 3rd and 5th armies also continue to go south, attacking central France, and destroying all French resistance. The 1st, the 2nd army and the 3rd army will go south from Paris. As for the 1st army and the 8th army, they need to attack westward along the Seine River. The 1st army and 5th army of the British and French coalition forces are not retreating to Le Havre, is it? It's best not to let the British army return to the British mainland, Qin Tian said. Although the British and French coalition forces still have nearly 2 million people, in Qin Tian's view, they are simply vulnerable. Compared with the elite German army, that has experienced many battles, the combat effectiveness of the British and French allied forces is too poor. Especially those newly formed troops, the combat effectiveness is quite poor. As for the British Expeditionary Force, even though they only had 300,000 people left, Qin Tian still hoped to wipe them out in France instead of sending them back to England. Once they return to the UK, when the German army lands in the UK in the future, it will pose a certain threat to the German army. The British army is undoubtedly much weaker than the Navy. The British Expeditionary Force is undoubtedly a relatively well-equipped and combat-effective force. Although, they were embarrassed by the Germans on the French battlefield. However, if they return to the UK and rearm, under the stimulation of the thought of defending the country, they don't know how powerful they will be. Qin Tian does not want the German army to suffer too many casualties in the future landing operations in the UK. After all, the war was almost over, and it was not worth losing one's life at that time. Your Highness, is it too much to deploy 6 legions to attack the remnants of the French in the south? The vast area of northern France also requires troops to stay behind, especially when our logistics supply lines are getting longer and longer. This is undoubtedly a problem. Give those French who insist on resistance a chance, Admiral Crook reminded. Qin Tian nodded. Logistics support is indeed very important. Especially when the army entered the south central of France, it was necessary to send troops to garrison important traffic nodes, and even conduct patrols to encircle and suppress the French who persisted in resisting. This also makes it impossible for them to send all the troops out. Then, which army should we keep to garrison northern France? Qin Tian asked. Let the 4th army of the Duke of Württemberg stay. The Duke of Württemberg is not in good health recently, and he has requested to return to China for a period of recuperation. In this case, it is just right for the 4th army to undertake less serious logistical support tasks, B. Admiral Luo suggested. Qin Tian thought for a while, and agreed to this strategy, leaving the 4th army for logistical support, while the other 5 armies attacked south. Although 1 legion was missing, Qin Tian was still very confident in the German army's next attack. 5 legions, more than 1 million people, are enough to sweep the whole of France. The remaining troops of the French were no match for the Germans at all. Your Highness, Le Havre is the naval base of the French, and there are many French warships left there. If we attack Le Havre, I'm afraid that we will be attacked by French naval guns. The artillery of the army. Obviously it is impossible to fight against the Navy's naval guns. In addition, if Le Havre is not blocked, the British may withdraw from there to the British mainland. Therefore, it is best to let the Navy assist us in this battle. Lieutenant General Ludendorff, Chief of Staff of the 8th Army, said. Yes, Your Highness. If the Navy can assist us, it will be able to block the way for the British to retreat. By then, it will be easier to take Le Havre and wipe out the British Expeditionary Force. Crook went up will say. I will explain to the Navy. When the 1st and 8th Legions attack Le Havre, the Navy will send warships to assist you. Qin Tian said. This is a small problem. Although, the French also have an odd weak navy. However, the main force of the French Navy has always been in the Mediterranean. If it is said that in the last century, the French still had the ambition to compete with the British for maritime supremacy, then after the fall of the Second French Empire, the French ambitions were also shattered. With the French self-defeating, the Royal Navy of the British Empire naturally and easily became the most powerful navy in the world. Facing the powerful Royal Navy, the French Navy even had to transfer its main force to the Mediterranean Sea to dominate in that small pond, and did not dare to compete with the British Royal Navy in the Atlantic Ocean. Of course, the current French Navy does not pose any threat to the German Navy at all. Although, the French Navy also has 10 capital ships. But in front of the powerful German Navy, that is nothing at all. Sending a fleet at will can destroy it. The German Navy has defeated even the British Royal Navy, and has become the veritable #1 navy in the world. Everyone, the French campaign will soon come to an end. In other words, the entire land battlefield, except for the next battle to land in Britain, there will be no large-scale battles. It is not a short-term battle to land in Britain. It can be launched in half a while, and there are a lot of things that need to be prepared. It is estimated that it will take until at least the second half of the year. Therefore, in the final battle of the French battlefield, I hope that everyone will be more careful and avoid capsizing in the gutter. In that case, it will be a stain on our victory. Qin Tian reminded. The German army is #1 in the world. This is the consensus of everyone. Although the German army is very rigorous, they still inevitably feel proud in the face of a series of brilliant victories. In that case, it is very likely to plant the seeds of failure for failure. Yes, Your Highness. Several commanders nodded solemnly. The mood of the army recently is indeed not quite right. Okay, everyone. Let's all go back and prepare. I hope that the Battle of France will end as soon as possible. Then, start preparing for landing in the British mainland. Qin Tian said with a smile. Yes, Your Highness. Several commanders replied. Although, it is not yet known which regiments will participate in the battle to land on the British mainland. However, undoubtedly everyone hopes to have this opportunity in their hearts. The next day, the German army continued to operate. The 2nd, the 3rd, 5th, 6th, and 7th armies moved south to attack the French. The 1st Army and the 8th Army headed west towards the sea. The 4th Army is responsible for ensuring the safety of the logistics supply line. Chapter 537. Excited Emperor. The German army was severely damaged. The British and French forces and captured Paris. From the perspective of the whole world, this seems to be a signal that the German army is about to win the war. In Germany, from the emperor and ministers to ordinary people, they all have this mentality. The war has been going on for more than half a year now. Even Germany made full preparations before the war. However, the war still had a great impact on the lives of the people of the empire. The most significant impact is undoubtedly that a large number of young and middle-aged people are recruited into the army, which creates a huge gap in the social labor force. Many jobs had to be filled by women. In addition, the death notices sent from the Department of the Army every week have plunged countless families into grief. Although, in this time and space, because of Qin Tian's relationship, the German army's combat effectiveness is even stronger. The losses they paid in the war were also smaller. But even so, there are still many families who have lost their husbands, sons, or fathers. This is war, and it is not to kill people. Even the impossible American emperors of later generations cannot fight a war with 0 casualties. Not to mention Germany now. Of course, compared with other countries, Germany's losses in this war are undoubtedly much smaller. This makes the empire, for the time being, able to bear it. The lives of the people of the empire have also been greatly affected by this. However, the food supply is still sufficient. However, the supply of meat, dairy products, vegetables, and fruits is not enough. Gasoline, in particular, has begun to limit supply. Many families who have bought cars have to park their cars at home and go to work on foot or by bike because they cannot add gasoline. Of course, even so, the people of the empire undoubtedly support the ongoing war of the empire. Especially in the face of victory one after another, they think that the empire is not far from winning the final victory. After the war is over, the empire will receive generous war dividends. By then, everyone will have a better life because of it. The character of the German people is undoubtedly tenacious. It is precisely because of this that the German army can fight on the battlefield without any worries. In another time and space, Germany lost the war and lost both world wars. This also made Germany pay an extremely heavy price for this. But, in this time and space, the German people will get the victory they only dreamed of. This is almost a sure thing. Berlin, in the palace, William II is holding an imperial meeting. Gentlemen, His Royal Highness and the generals, as well as the brave soldiers of the German Empire, fought very beautifully on the French battlefield. The main force of the British and French coalition forces has been wiped out by us. Even Paris, the capital of the French, it has been occupied by us. The senior officials of the French government abandoned their capital and fled to the south of France in embarrassment. Although the French continue to resist, but I believe that we are nowhere near winning the war. It's far away. As long as France is defeated, the empire will undoubtedly win this war. William II looked excited when the war started, although he was full of confidence in this war. But in fact, with the strength of Germany alone, he still has some doubts about challenging the world powers such as Britain and France. Although Germany also has an ally, the ally of the Austro-Hungarian Empire is simply a pig teammate who specifically drags its feet. It is simply delusional to expect them to contribute to the war. But after the war broke out, the performance of the German army made William II very satisfied. Although, on the Western Front, because of Marquis, the British and French allied forces could not be defeated in one fell swoop. However, the German Navy and German army performed very well on the Eastern Front. The German Navy beat the world's #1 Royal Navy to the ground. The 8th Army of the German Army defeated Russia almost by itself. This gave Germany the upper hand in this war. After half a year of rest, the German army was on the Western Front this time. It didn't even use it for a month, and it directly defeated the British and French allied forces, and even occupied the French capital. Such a result naturally made William II very satisfied. He seemed to have seen the scene where France surrendered and the British were defeated. At that time, Germany will replace Britain in one fell swoop and become the world hegemony. And it is a world hegemon whose strength far surpasses that of the United Kingdom. As soon as he thought that the whole world would be crawling under his feet, William II was so excited that he couldn't sleep for several nights. Your Majesty, although the French are still holding on, they probably won't last long. According to the information we have, the French are mobilizing aggressively. However, the total strength of the British and French coalition forces is no more than 2 million. Moreover, more than half of those troops are newly formed troops. Not only are their weapons and equipment insufficient, but they have not even experienced formal training. It is impossible for the French to use such troops to resist the attack of the elite imperial army. Impossible. His Highness the Crown Prince has ordered the troops to continue to attack south. As long as our army can defeat the French again, they will have no strength and no courage to continue fighting. Then, they will have to surrender. Marshal von Falkenhayn, Minister of War and Chief of the General Staff of the Empire, smiled. King William II nodded. He also believed that they were only one step away from victory. Your Majesty, Your Highness has already begun preparations for the landing campaign in England. His Highness has just sent a telegram to the Admiralty, requesting the Admiralty to cooperate with the army to encircle and annihilate the British Expeditionary Force that has retreated to Le Havre. This is undoubtedly for the future landing on the British mainland. Prepare. The British Expeditionary Force is undoubtedly the most elite force in the British Army. Once the British Expeditionary Force is completely eliminated by us, the British will have to rely on some recruits to fight. At that time, they will not be our opponents. It is just around the corner to sweep the British mainland. Marshal Earl Tirpitz, Minister of the Navy, also said, the German Navy has defeated the Royal Navy in a decisive battle, causing heavy losses to the Royal Navy. It can be said that the German Navy has officially replaced the British Royal Navy and has become the world's #1 navy. This is tantamount to realizing the long-cherished wish of Marshal Earl Tirpitz for many years, which naturally made him very happy. Well, if the French don't surrender, then we will make them surrender. If the British want to continue to resist, then we will destroy them. No one can compete with the German Empire. William II looked confident. Chapter 538, Undercurrent. The German army won a big victory in France, severely damaged the British and French allied forces in one fell swoop, and even occupied the French capital Paris. Of course, the entire German Empire fell into a carnival. But at the same time, not everyone is unhappy. For example, the retired former chief of staff of the German Imperial Army, Malky, is one of them. When Malky was the chief of the army's general staff, he personally directed the battle on the Western Front. A more self-righteous modification of the Schlieffen Plan, thinking that many mistakes in the Schlieffen Plan were corrected. However, after the war started, he discovered that the modified Schlieffen Plan beyond recognition had no way of succeeding. In the end, the German army suffered heavy losses on the Western Front, although they also caused heavy losses to the British and French allied forces and captured a large area of northern France. However, they failed to achieve the planned strategic goal, that is, to capture Paris and force France to withdraw from the war. In this war, Germany fell into a crisis of protracted war. After all, as far as Germany is concerned, once it is caught in a protracted war, it will be difficult to win. Therefore, Germany must avoid this situation as much as possible. Of course, all this is not entirely the fault of little Maoki. He certainly bears most of the blame for this. But others are also responsible. For example, William II, and those German generals on the front line. If it weren't for William II blindly making unrealistic demands, if the frontline generals didn't obey Maoki's orders during the war, maybe the ending would be different. It's just that it's too late to say that now. Little Maoki has been relieved of his duties and retired from active service. This is undoubtedly a shame for little Maoki. You know, his uncle, Old Moltke, was the chief of staff who commanded the German army to win the war of unification of the German Empire. Little Maoki has always firmly believed that with his talent, he will definitely be able to surpass his uncle and establish greater achievements. But I didn't expect that it would end up like this. When the news came that the German army had conquered Paris, little Moltke sat in his office and remained silent for a long time. His back looks so bleak and lonely. Hey, is it really because of my lack of personal ability? Why is Oscar that guy able to succeed so easily, but I can't? Little Maoki looked jealous. Indeed, Zhao Maoki is very jealous of Qin Tian. I think Qin Tian's luck is too good. Although Qin Tian was the crown prince of the empire, at the age of more than 20 years old, he almost started from scratch, established such a large foundation, and also won the love of the empire's army and navy. It's almost unimaginable. Originally, there was not much enmity between Zhao Maoki and Qin Tian. It's just that Zhao Maoki has always been friends with Crown Prince William. After Qin Tian became the crown prince, he blindly resisted and suppressed Qin Tian. In the end, the conflict between the two sides became deeper and deeper. It's just that, in their struggle, it finally ended with a failure of little Maoki. It seems that no one can shake that guy's status. The future throne must belong to him. Even William II, I'm afraid there is no way to replace his reserve. Little Maoki sighed tone. Although, he was very unwilling. However, he seemed to have no other choice. People who are also unhappy are Lieutenant General Plitwitz of the German Guards. Before the war broke out, he wanted to compete with Qin Tian for the position of commander of the 8th Army. However, in the end William II transferred him away in order to give Qin Tian a place. This made Lieutenant General Plitwitz very dissatisfied. Even though Qin Tian was the crown prince of the empire, he still harbored resentment towards those who robbed him of his position. Especially after the German 8th Army achieved a series of victories on the Eastern Front, Lieutenant General Plitwitz was extremely jealous. He paranoidly believes that, if he is the commander of the 8th Army, he can also lead the 8th Army to win these brilliant victories on the Eastern Front. In that case, with those exploits, he could even be promoted to Marshal. It is precisely because of that he regards Qin Tian as his great enemy. Later, he was even more active in uniting with little Maoki, trying to bring down Qin Tian. but unfortunately, it was not successful in the end. Now, Prittwitz is still Lieutenant General of the Imperial Guard, and his position has not been promoted in the slightest. Especially after Zio Meoki was dismissed, he had no hope of promotion at all, and it was God's blessing to keep his current position. Originally, the personal relationship between him and Kaiser Wilhelm II had also faded away. This made Lieutenant General Prittwitz very unwilling. That damned guy actually won another battle. In the eyes of the German people and the military, he is already like a god. In this case, who else can deal with him? Is it possible, just watching like this, will he become the emperor of the empire step by step? At that time, will I have a way out? I'm afraid that there is no other way but to be dismissed. Lieutenant General Prittwitz thought of this, and his heart was very irritable. He is a person who is very greedy for power and position, and he wants to continue to climb up even in his dreams. Whoever stands in his way is his enemy, even if that person is noble. General, someone wants to see you. The adjutant came in suddenly and reported to Lieutenant General Prittwitz. Tell him, I'm not free. Lieutenant General Prittwitz said angrily. Now he is in a state of anxiety. How can he be in the mood to see guests? What's the matter? General Prittwitz, even I'm missing, right? A voice sounded. Lieutenant General Prittwitz looked up, a look of astonishment flashed across his face, and then a smile filled his face. It turned out to be Prince Friedrich. How come you have time to come to the guards? It was Prince Ethel Friedrich, the second son of William II. General, I'm here this time because someone wants to see you. So, I came here to invite the general. Prince Ethel Friedrich said. Who wants to see me? Lieutenant General Prittwitz was a little puzzled. You'll know when you go. Prince Ethel Friedrich said with a smile, looking very mysterious. Okay, Your Royal Highness. Lieutenant General Prittwitz nodded. Lieutenant General Prittwitz changed into casual clothes, and together with Prince Ethel Friedrich, left the headquarters of the guards, and went directly to a manor in Potsdam by car. After staying in the manor for a full 2 hours, Lieutenant General Prittwitz left. However, when he left, he had a smile on his face. Chapter 539, Persuasion. Berlin, Moltke's mansion. After dinner, Zio Meoki chatted with his family for a while, and then went to the office as usual. Although he has been dismissed, he still has great influence in the German army. He can receive many battle reports here. Although Qin Tian led the German army to an unprecedented victory in France. But little Meoki did not admit defeat. He believed that his ability, at least in terms of military command, was much stronger than Qin Tian. In order to prove this point, Zio Meoki thought of a way, that is, he started to write a book. It is about to pass on your own military command ideas through books. He believes that people in future generations will be able to tell the difference. On this night, little Meoki just put on his reading glasses and got ready for work. But the waiter came to report, and Lieutenant General Prittwitz asked to see him. Little Meoki frowned. Although his personal relationship with Lieutenant General Prittwitz was pretty good, after he was dismissed, Lieutenant General Prittwitz rarely came to him. After all, little Moltke, who lost his position as Chief of the General Staff, could no longer help Lieutenant General Prittwitz. At the same time, both of them were people who had a feud with Qin Tian. If they were in frequent contact, it was inevitable that Qin Tian would not hear about it. In that case, Qin Tian might have bad thoughts in his heart. This is undoubtedly not a good thing for both of them. Therefore, the two took the initiative to reduce their meetings. Although he couldn't figure out what Lieutenant General Prittwitz was doing so late, little Moltke still asked the waiter to bring him to his office. Your Excellency, good evening. Lieutenant General Prittwitz immediately greeted little Moltke after seeing him. Little Meoki's title is Earl, of course. He did not earn this title, but inherited it. Your Excellency, Lieutenant General, hello. Zio Meoki nodded. Your Excellency, I heard that you are writing a book on military command. I have been, Your Excellency, Lieutenant General. I'm just looking casually. It's hard to say whether it will be published or not. Little Meoki shook his head modestly. With the Earl's military command ability, the book written will definitely be sought after by everyone. You know, there are still many people in the Imperial Army who respect the Earl. Even for Qin Tian after the guy came to power, everyone was suppressed. However, everyone did not give up, and they are still waiting for the day when His Excellency the Earl can lead us again and achieve greater victories. Lieutenant General Prittwitz was very excited. Little Maoki's eyes flashed a gleam of relief. It is undoubtedly gratifying for him to have so many supporters in the army. Of course, these people who are close to him are not in a very good situation now, and some even chose to retire. After von Falkenhayn came to power, he would naturally clean up Little Maoki's direct line. This is a very normal thing in the first place, and anyone who came on stage would definitely do that. But Zhao Maoki felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. However, Little Maoki has no hope of coming back to power. Now, Qin Tian's influence in the empire and the army is at its peak. Although von Falkenhayn's ability was not very good, under his leadership, the army won one major victory after another. From the performance point of view, these are much better than when Maoki was in charge of the army. Ordinary people can't see the deep-seated things, they only think that Maoki is poor, so he can't lead the army to victory. And von Falkenhayn's ability is strong, so he can lead the army to victory. Coupled with the support of Qin Tian, the crown prince of the empire, von Falkenhayn's status is naturally as stable as Mount Tay. Your Excellency, Lieutenant General, I'm now a dismissed person, and I don't want to think about those unrealistic things anymore. Zhao Maoki shook his head. Although, in his heart, he is also very eager to take up the military post again, and it is best to be able to serve as the chief of the army's general staff again. Of course, he knew that this was impossible. If he insisted on finding a solution in that direction, it would cause dissatisfaction with Qin Tian and von Falkenhayn. By then, he might be in big trouble. Therefore, for the sake of his own interests, even his own life, Zhao Maoki can only suppress the unrealistic thoughts in his heart. Your Excellency, why do you want to belittle yourself? With your ability and qualifications, and your prestige in the army, absolutely no one can compare with you. I think you must still have a chance. We'll say. Zhao Maoki shook his head. Forget it, Your Excellency the Lieutenant General. People should recognize the status quo clearly. Otherwise, they will only fall into crisis. I advise you, from now on, you'd better be more honest, right? Although, His Royal Highness may not embarrass you. However, there are many people who know about your holiday. Those who want to show their favor to His Royal Highness will inevitably not use this opportunity to deal with you. If I were you, if that's the case, it's best to request to retire from active service immediately, leave Berlin, find a small place, and live in peace and stability. Prittwitz's face turned blue and then pale, even though he knew that Little Maoki was doing it for his own good. However, he was really not reconciled. He would not be willing to let him just give up the power in his hands and leave the bustling Berlin. What's more, after meeting that person, a glimmer of hope has been rekindled in his heart. No, we haven't lost yet, we still have a chance, we can't just give up. Lieutenant General Prittwitz said secretly. Lieutenant General Prittwitz said secretly. Prittwitz took a deep breath, calmed himself down, and began to organize his words. The main purpose of his coming to see Little Maoki this time is to persuade Little Maoki to act with them. After all, although Little Maoki was dismissed, he still had unparalleled influence in the army. With Little Maoki joining them, the possibility of their success is undoubtedly much greater. Your Excellency, I'm very unwilling. You know, the position of the commander of the 8th Army originally belonged to me. However, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince suddenly intervened, so that I could not get this position. Otherwise, the command of the 8th Army, I'm afraid I'm the one who made the 8th Army shine on the Eastern Front. Tell me, can I be willing? Lieutenant General Prittwitz said with red eyes. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 540, Crown Prince William. Little Maoki quietly listened to the nagging of Lieutenant General Prittwitz, although he didn't think these complaints of Lieutenant General Prittwitz were right. However, he knew that Lieutenant General Prittwitz had resentment in his heart, and if he was not allowed to vent it, it might cause more serious consequences. Lieutenant General Prittwitz. Little Malky is very familiar with this person. He has no ability, except for trying to figure out what others mean and please others. He has no ability. Even if he became the commander of the 8th Army, he would definitely not be able to lead the 8th Army to a brilliant victory on the Eastern Front. Although Zhao Meoki was dissatisfied with Qin Tian, he still recognized Qin Tian's ability. Originally, the 8th Army was the army with the worst combat effectiveness in the German army. However, after Qin Tian became the commander of the 8th Army, through a lot of investment, the 8th Army has been completely changed, so that the combat effectiveness of the 8th Army has become the most powerful among the several German armies. Furthermore, in the subsequent Eastern Front War, Qin Tian's command of the 8th Army was also very appropriate. Whether it was luring the enemy to go deep, or joining forces with the Austro-Hungarian Empire to severely damage the Russian army, he performed very well. Xiaomoki even thought that, even if it was him, he probably wouldn't be able to do better than this. As for Lieutenant General Prittwitz, if he was the commander of the 8th Army, it is estimated that the German army would not only fail to win on the Eastern Front, but would suffer a disastrous defeat. In that case, it is hard to say whether Germany can win the war. Of course, these are what Xiaomoki thinks in his heart. However, on the surface, he didn't express anything, let alone say it. Although he is not happy with Lieutenant General Prittwitz, he will not offend Lieutenant General Prittwitz either. After all, the current him is no longer the chief of the general staff who holds a lot of power, but just an old man with leisure time at home. Lieutenant General Prittwitz complained for a while before stopping. Then he looked at little Malky and continued, "Your Excellency, I know, you will definitely not be reconciled." Xiaomoki smiled dryly. "If you are not reconciled, what can you do? Now, we are all losers, and we can no longer confront His Royal Highness. He led the army and won a crucial victory in this war. He has won. It is foreseeable that in the future, his position will be more stable, and no one can fight against him. If we persist in our obsession, the final result will be to hit the stone with the pebble." Lieutenant General Prittwitz nodded. "Your Excellency, that is indeed the case. That kid Oscar is very lucky. However, Your Excellency it is not that we have no chance at all. Now, we have an excellent opportunity. If it works well, it may not be impossible to pull him down. Even, we can all get huge benefits," Lieutenant General Prittwitz said. Little Meoki couldn't help raising his eyebrows after hearing this. It would be the best if Qin Tian could be pulled down from the position of Crown Prince. But is it that easy? At least, Xiaomoki thinks this will be very difficult. "Your Excellency, Lieutenant General, what do you want to do? Launch a coup d'etat?" Little Meoki looked serious. No matter which country, it will not be too tolerant towards those who launch a coup. Once successful, they will certainly be able to gain high positions and wield enormous power. However, if you fail, you may lose your life. "Your Excellency, it's not a coup d'etat. I promise, we have absolutely legitimate reasons. How about it, Your Excellency? I will take you to a place and meet someone. After that, you will understand everything." "Prithvi Lieutenant General C," said. Little Meoki didn't answer immediately, but fell into deep thought. Reason told him that the actions of Lieutenant General Prittwitz and the others were too risky. If you don't pay attention, you will lose your wealth and life. However, the ambition that had been suppressed in his heart resurfaced again. He is also a person who is extremely greedy for power. Otherwise, he would never have tried to rely on his relationship with William II to keep his position, after failing to achieve the expected success on the Western Front. Now, Lieutenant General Prittwitz suddenly told him that he had such an opportunity, which naturally moved his heart. "Okay, I'll take a look with Lieutenant General Prittwitz. I want to see what they're up to. If it's unreliable, then I will refuse to participate." Xiaomoki secretly made up his mind determined. "Your Excellency, Lieutenant General, let me go with you," Little Meoki said. "Yes, Your Excellency the Earl. I believe that you will definitely make the right choice." Lieutenant General Prittwitz had a happy expression on his face, as if he had decided that Moltke would join them. Little Meoki was also guessing in his heart who Lieutenant General Prittwitz would take him to see. One name after another flashed through his mind. However, no one can compare with Qin Tian, the current crown prince of the empire. Little Moltke and Lieutenant General Plitwitz left Berlin overnight in a car and headed for Potsdam. The car did not go to the Imperial Palace in Potsdam, but to a remote estate. After the gate of the manor was opened, the car drove directly in. "Please, Your Excellency the Earl," Lieutenant General Plitwitz said. Little Moltke entered the hall under the guidance of Lieutenant General Plitwitz. A young man was standing inside with a tiny face. Little Moltke naturally knew this person. He was the second son of William II, Prince Ethel Friedrich. "Your Excellency, good evening." Prince Ethel Friedrich said hello. "Hi, Your Highness." Little Moltke nodded. At the same time, he also thought about it in his heart. Could it be that Prince Ethel Friedrich wanted to connect with Lieutenant General Plitwitz and others to launch a coup? However, Moltke obviously didn't like them. After all, although Prince Ethel Friedrich is the second son of William II, he absolutely cannot compare with Qin Tian in terms of ability or influence in the country. Little Moltke thought that, if they launched a coup, they would definitely lose. "Your Excellency, please come with me," Prince Ethel Friedrich said. Little Moltke was taken aback for a moment. Why, isn't the person he wants to meet Prince Ethel Friedrich? Little Moltke followed Prince Ethel Friedrich to the bedroom on the second floor. When the bedroom door opened, Little Moltke froze for a moment. What appeared in front of him was a man in a wheelchair. And this person, Little Moltke knew, and was very familiar with him. He was the eldest son of Emperor William II, the former Crown Prince of the Empire. Chapter 541, Little Moltke's Choice. "His Royal Highness, why are you here?" Little Moltke's eyes widened, as if he couldn't believe what he saw. Didn't Crown Prince William become a vegetable because he fell off his horse? It was precisely because of that Qin took this opportunity to surpass the other princes and become the new Crown Prince. Although, at the beginning, Qin Tian was only acting as the Crown Prince. However, in the position of Crown Prince, Qin Tian's performance is undoubtedly obvious to all. This made Qin Tian finally remove the code word on his head and became the real Crown Prince. Now, Qin Tian's status in Germany is even more prosperous. Under such circumstances, who can fight against him? However, the sudden appearance of Crown Prince William brought a slight change to the whole incident. After all, William II had promised at the beginning that once Crown Prince William came to his senses, then Qin Tian would have to return the position of Crown Prince to William. It's just that, at the time, everyone thought that this was just an excuse. No one would really be willing to give back the power they got. In addition, everyone did not think that Crown Prince William, who had become a vegetative state, could wake up so easily. Otherwise, William II would not have changed the Crown Prince. But now, everything seems to be different. Crown Prince William really woke up. "Your Excellency, good evening." A smile appeared on Crown Prince William's face. Due to being bedridden all year round, the appearance of Crown Prince William has undergone tremendous changes. The original Crown Prince William was personable and handsome. But now, because she looks too thin, she looks a little old. "Your Highness, I really didn't expect that you would wake up," Moltke said with emotion. Indeed, being able to wake up from a vegetative state is already considered a medical miracle. At least, in Moltke's view, this is really lucky. Crown Prince William nodded. "Actually, I woke up half a month ago. It's just that the situation is worse than it is now. Now, I'm recovering bit by bit. My legs are also slowly recovering. If I lose consciousness, in a few months, I will be able to return to the same level as a normal person. Congratulations, Your Royal Highness the Crown Prince." Little Moltke was sincerely happy that Crown Prince William was able to wake up. After all, he used to have a very close relationship with Crown Prince William. Crown Prince William smiled bitterly. "Unfortunately, everything has changed during the years I have been sleeping. My position as Crown Prince has been lost." Moltke opened his mouth, wanting to comfort him, but found that he couldn't say anything. After all, he also believed that Crown Prince William's position as Crown Prince might not be regained. "Your Highness, does your Majesty know about your awakening?" Little Moltke asked. "Father is very busy now, busy with his hegemony that is about to be achieved. Why would he pay attention to my son, who has become a useless person? Besides, hasn't he already found a more outstanding son? Oscar, my dear brother, isn't he already the Crown Prince of the Empire?" Crown Prince William sneered. In his words, there is even more unwillingness. Obviously, he was very unwilling to lose the Crown Prince. Little Moki can understand this. After all, such a big empire, especially the empire that is about to become the hegemon of the world, does not belong to him anymore. Anyone anymore will definitely be very unhappy about this. Your Highness, there is no way to do this. It is God's blessing that you can wake up, Little Malky said. Little Malky faintly felt why Crown Prince William didn't tell William II the news after he woke up. Obviously, he was not reconciled to losing the position of Crown Prince, and he was deliberately trying to get back his own position. Moreover, Crown Prince William obviously hoped that he could help him. In this case, Little Maoki was in a dilemma. Little Maoki still believes that, even if Crown Prince William launches a coup, the possibility of success is very small. But if it can be successful, then Crown Prince William can not only become the Crown Prince, but can even go one step further and directly become the Emperor of the Empire. At that time, those who support him will get huge benefits. Not only can he restore the position of Chief of Staff, but he can even get other benefits. This is undoubtedly very tempting to Little Maoki. Of course, Xiao Moki is also worried that if it fails, the consequences will be unimaginable. Otherwise, even life will be threatened. Your Excellency, I hope to get back what belongs to me. Therefore, I hope that you can help me. I guarantee that once I succeed, you will be appointed as the Minister of the Imperial Army and Chief of the General Staff. At the same time, your title high will be promoted to Duke. I will divide a duchy for you in the newly occupied territories in Germany, which will be passed down from generation to generation as the territory of the Moltke family. Crown Prince William set out the conditions. Crown Prince William knew very well that the current Qin Tian was no longer comparable to him. It is undoubtedly very difficult to move Qin Tian. His previous strength had long since collapsed during the time he was in a coma. Therefore, if he wants to successfully get back what belongs to him, he must get more support. The current Qin Tian is in full swing within the empire. Especially in the military, it is full of supporters. The Imperial Navy has completely become Qin Tian's supporter. Among the Imperial Army, nearly half of the troops were directly controlled by Qin Tian. Several other legions were also influenced by Qin Tian. It can be said that it is almost impossible for Crown Prince William to take back his position as Crown Prince in a fair and honest manner. It is for this reason that he asked the news of his awakening to be kept strictly confidential. Even William II. Crown Prince William knew that his father, who loved him so much, had changed his mind. If William II knew that he was awake, he would never have the chance to regain his crown prince. Even William II would conversely put him under house arrest. Qin Tian's performance had already convinced William II that Qin Tian was the most suitable candidate for the crown prince. Therefore, if he wanted to get back his position as crown prince, he could only resort to risky tactics. Little Moltke was still thinking, but Crown Prince William didn't urge him. He knew that it would be very difficult for Little Moki to make a choice. After a while, Little Moki made a decision. In the end, it was his selfishness that overcame his reason. His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince of the Empire originally belonged to you, and I will do my best to help you, Xiao Maoki said solemnly. Chapter 542, Conspiracy. Crown Prince William showed a smile on his face, and he knew that Little Moltke would definitely choose to help him. After all, Xiao Maoki is a person who values power extremely. After being dismissed, his heart is full of resentment. Coupled with the feud between Xiao Maoki and Qin Tian, Xiao Maoki must be worried that once Qin Tian succeeds to the throne, he will pose a greater threat to him. Under such circumstances, supporting Crown Prince William is undoubtedly the best choice. After all, once Crown Prince William successfully regained the right to inherit the throne, Moltke would not only be able to reinstate his post, but also take this opportunity to gain a lot of benefits. Nothing is better than this. Of course, if it fails, the consequences will be disastrous. However, Xiao Maoki thought that it was a failure. At least he could save his life. After all, his personal relationship with William II is very good. Your Excellency, I'm very pleased that you can make such a choice. I believe that you will never regret your choice today. Crown Prince William looked confident, as if everything had already been won. I hope so. Little Maoki said. Your Excellency, you should go back first. I have to meet with other people. Tomorrow night, we will discuss specific actions here. Crown Prince William said. Yes, Your Highness. Little Maoki nodded. He knew that Crown Prince William would definitely not be looking for him alone. Before becoming a vegetable, Crown Prince William still had quite a few people. Even now, most of those people are no longer there. But still some people can use it in the future. Little Moltke and Lieutenant General Plitwitz left the manor by car and returned to Berlin overnight. After returning home, Little Maoki didn't reveal any news to his family. He knew that this time's behavior would be very risky. However, since he has promised Crown Prince William to help him regain the right to inherit the throne, then he has no way out and must go all out. Otherwise, once he fails, the consequences will be unbearable for him. Your Majesty obviously fully agrees with Oscar. The previous promise of Crown Prince William to return the Crown Prince when he wakes up is obviously impossible to fulfill. Then, it is obviously not very good for William II to issue an edict to remove Oscar from the position of Crown Prince. It's real. If that happens, I am afraid it will trigger Oscar's counterattack. The army that Oscar now controls is enough to ensure his victory. Little Maoki secretly thought. Then, in this case, there is only one way to go. Launch a mutiny directly. Send troops to capture the palace and put His Majesty under house arrest. Then recall Oscar, put him under house arrest, or even kill him. In this case, the others will also there will be no room for opposition. At that time, Crown Prince William will be able to take back his right to inherit the throne in a legitimate way, and even directly inherit the throne. Zhao Maoki believes that this is the only feasible way. Even though William II was his friend, he couldn't care less about it. The next night, Moltke Jr. and Lieutenant General Plitwitz drove to the manor on the outskirts of Potsdam again. After entering, Little Mao found out that besides him and Lieutenant General Plitwitz, there were also Marshal Goltz and General Graf. Marshal Goltz is a veteran in the army, but he has retired to the second line now, but he still has a certain influence in the army. As for General Graf, he was the general of the Praetorian Guard. In addition, Little Moltke also saw the Duke of Württemberg, who is the nominal leader of the Kingdom of Württemberg and the commander of the 4th Army of the German Army. In terms of status, among these people present, he is definitely second only to Crown Prince William. Even Little Maoki can't compare. Little Maoki did not expect that Crown Prince William would find so many supporters. And this undoubtedly means that the possibility of Crown Prince William's success will be greatly improved. This made his original hanging heart gradually return to his stomach. Everyone, thank you for continuing to support me. I promise, once I successfully regain the right to inherit the throne, I will never forget your help. Crown Prince William promised everyone. Everyone readily accepted the promise of Crown Prince William. After all, one of the most important reasons why they will support Crown Prince William at this juncture is that they are dissatisfied with their current life. They all want higher status, more power. Another reason is that everyone and Qin Tian have festivals. In other words, Qin Tian was unable to meet their demands. Therefore, they can only find other supporters. No matter what, Crown Prince William is undoubtedly the orthodoxy of the empire. Choosing to support Crown Prince William is more likely to succeed than choosing to support other ordinary princes. Your Highness, His Majesty's attitude has undergone a new change. He has fully supported His Highness Oscar. Therefore, there are not many measures we can take. Marshal Goltz said. That is to say, we have to take extreme measures. Crown Prince William was expressionless, and no one knew what he was thinking deep in his heart. Yes, Your Highness. We can only use force to force His Majesty to abolish His Highness Oscar's Crown Prince position and return it to you. Zhao Maoki also said. Crown Prince William nodded. Well, since there is no other way, let's take this way. Your Highness, I think that, if we do this, His Majesty the Emperor will definitely be very dissatisfied with us. In the future, he will also find opportunities to deal with us. Instead of doing this, it is better to let His Majesty abdicate directly and let His Highness take the throne. Only in this way can we be truly safe. Lieutenant General Plitwitz said. This is a good idea. Others echoed. In fact, they also thought of this way. It's just that, if you do that, you will directly attack William II, which may cause dissatisfaction with Crown Prince William, so everyone didn't say anything. In fact, after Crown Prince William woke up this time, he no longer agreed with the family relationship between William II. It would be the best if he could succeed in one step and let him inherit the throne. Everyone, in order to avoid future troubles, I also think that we should adopt the latter method. Little Maoki also said, well, since everyone says so, then, let's use the last method. Crown Prince William also said, in fact, it was exactly what he wanted. It's just that he can't say it himself, it's just for others to say it. Chapter 543, Mutiny. Determined to use extreme methods to force William II to abdicate, and after Crown Prince William succeeded to the throne in advance, they began to actively plan how to succeed. We can be sure that it is almost impossible to abdicate ourselves. Therefore, we can only force him to abdicate. The Duke of Württemberg said. Everyone nodded repeatedly, but they also knew that it would be very difficult to force William II to abdicate. After all, William II is now the Emperor of the Empire, the most powerful person in the entire empire. We send troops to break into the palace. Then, force His Majesty to abdicate. There is no other way other than this. Little Maoki said. Although this method is very extreme, it is the only way that can work. All eyes were on Lieutenant General Graf and Lieutenant General Plitwitz. Both of them were generals of the Imperial Guard, and they were the only troops they could control. As for the 4th Army of the Duke of Württemberg, it is now in France, and cannot be used at all. Therefore, we can only rely on the Imperial Guard. German guards, a total of 25 battalions, stationed around Berlin, including Potsdam. These Imperial Guards are not only responsible for guarding the palace and government agencies, but also responsible for the safety of His Majesty and important members of the royal family, as well as the security of senior government officials. The defense of Berlin is also in charge of the Janissaries. Lieutenant General Graf and Lieutenant General Plitwitz each commanded 5 battalions of the Imperial Guards. Together, the two commanded troops accounted for 40% of the total number of the Imperial Guards. The 5 battalions under me can fully obey my command. Lieutenant General Graf said. I can effect up to 3 battalions. Lieutenant General Plitwitz blushed, and his ability can be seen from this. Crown Prince William saw all this, but didn't say anything. After all, now is the time to employ people. I was able to influence 2 battalions, said the Duke of Württemberg. His eldest son served as an officer in the Praetorian Guard. I can also affect the 2 battalions. Zio Maoki also said. Although he has been dismissed, the influence of the Moltke family in the army is undoubtedly very strong. There are also many children in the family. It is nothing at all to serve as an officer in the army and influence the guards of the 2 battalions. I can influence a battalion. Field Marshal Goltz also said. This is enough. The troops you can influence have reached 13 battalions in total, which is already more than half of the guards. If we launch a surprise attack and occupy the palace in one fell swoop, at that time, we can naturally borrow the order of His Majesty the Emperor, take back the military power of the Imperial Guard. Crown Prince William said. Being able to control so many troops already made him very satisfied. You know, the main troops of the German army have already been sent abroad to fight. In the country, there are not many troops at all. Especially in the Berlin area, it is the home field of the Janissaries. Being able to master so many Imperial Guards, the possibility of his success is undoubtedly very high. At that time, as long as William II is under house arrest, and Qin Tian is tricked back to Berlin, under house arrest or killed, then he will be successful. Crown Prince William seems to have seen that victory is waving to him again. After we got the situation under control, the Duke of Württemberg quickly transferred the 4th Army back home to stabilize the situation. In this way, other people will no longer pose a threat to us. Crown Prince William said excitedly. Everyone nodded repeatedly, although they all believed that Qin Tian had great influence in the army. But if Qin Tian is detained in the name of William II, without this leader, will those troops continue to obey Qin Tian's orders? At that time, they will have enough time to divide and disintegrate, eliminate Qin Tian's influence in the army, and thus win the final victory. Your Highness, I hope that after we succeed, the war will continue. After all, we have reached the final stage of this battle, and we are about to win it. It would be a pity if we give up now. Zhao Maoki said. Of course, Your Excellency the Earl. Of course we will continue this battle. The British and French allied forces have been defeated, and the defeat of the French is just around the corner. In the end, there is only one Britain that has suffered heavy losses. As long as we work harder, we will be able to defeat the British. Of course we cannot give up this easy victory, Crown Prince William said with a smile. Now, he feels that the time he was unconscious and asleep, although it was painful, was not without any benefits. At least, during this time, Germany became stronger. The powerful enemies were almost beaten, and they were about to fail. After he succeeds to the throne, as long as the war continues, he will be able to secure the final victory. At that time, the German Empire will become the most powerful country in the world, and he will be the emperor of this world hegemony. How wonderful this is. Thinking of this, Crown Prince William was very happy, thinking that the suffering he had suffered during this period was not in vain at all. The German Empire is about to become the hegemony of the world, and our Crown Prince will become the emperor of this empire. Lieutenant General Prittwitz said with a smile. Everyone else agreed. Crown Prince William's face was about to die of laughter. When will we launch it? Crown Prince William asked. Time is tight, and if it is delayed for too long, there will be accidents. How about it? We will start to launch in the evening of 3 days later. Little Maoki suggested. 3 days later, the time is about the same. This time is enough for us to complete the preparations. The Duke of Württemberg also said. Others also turned around one after another. Everyone, after we win, I will never forget your help. At that time, everyone will get benefits beyond expectations. Crown Prince William once again assured everyone. There were smiles on everyone's faces. Didn't they take such a big risk just to get more benefits? Time passed little by little, and the atmosphere in Berlin became more and more weird. On the night of April 26th, after dark, the guards stationed in the suburbs of Berlin immediately began to mobilize. The betrayal of Lieutenant General Graf, the commander of the guards, prevented Wilhelm II's soldiers from initiating problems immediately. A large number of guards entered Paris. They occupied traffic arteries, railway stations, and radio stations, and hunted down high-ranking officials of the imperial government and military wantonly. At the same time, the main force of the two battalions attacked the palace. The mutiny was staged in Berlin when the German Empire was about to win. Chapter 544, The Wrath of Wilhelm II. On the streets of Berlin, a fleet of trucks is galloping. Inside the truck were all heavily armed guard soldiers. It's just that these Imperial Guard soldiers are no longer loyal to their emperor. The truck drove directly outside the gate of the palace, and a large number of Janissary soldiers jumped off the truck. The guards of the palace noticed something was wrong and shouted loudly. Which movie are you from? What do you want to do? But what responded to them was rifle bullets. Bang, bang, the clear gunshot sounded, spreading far and far in the silent night. It also alarmed others. The entire palace seemed to be in chaos at this moment. Hurry up, occupy the palace, cut off the telephone lines, search every room, don't miss a single room, and absolutely don't let the people inside communicate with the outside. Lieutenant General Prittwitz personally commanded. A large number of rebels broke into the palace and began a massive search. In the German Imperial Palace, there are not many guards who are actually in charge of guarding. Because no one believed that such a thing would happen. As the Imperial Palace of the Empire, the place where the Emperor of the Empire lived, how could it be attacked? Besides, there are guards everywhere in and around Berlin. William II considered himself very safe. But it is a pity that the problem now is his Imperial Guard. The generals who commanded the guards were also people trusted by William II. In other words, these people are all his close friends, and they have a very good personal relationship with him. William II would never have thought that these people would betray him. Of course, this is mainly because the first person who betrayed William II was Crown Prince William. Even his son betrayed him, let alone others. coupled with the bribe of Crown Prince William's high-ranking officials and generous salary. Those who are not determined will naturally not be loyal to him anymore. As for the guards loyal to William II, they have also been disarmed. The rebels dispatched troops to forcibly break into these barracks as soon as they started. These barracks were not prepared at all, so they were easily captured by the rebels. It can be said that the whole of Berlin is now under the control of the rebels. Looking at his troops entering the palace, Lieutenant General Plitwitz had a smile on his face. The operation tonight went very smoothly. They seemed to be on the verge of success. When the rebels attacked the palace, the Admiralty and the Army General Staff were also attacked. However, the Minister of the Navy, Marshal Count Tirpitz, was not in Berlin, but went to Wilhelmshaven. The German Navy began to prepare to assist the army to land on the British mainland to fight. There were many things that he, the Minister of the Navy, needed to ask in person, which made him escape a catastrophe. Minister of War and Chief of the General Staff von Falkenhayn is in the General Staff. When the rebels attacked, the General Staff was not prepared at all. Under the fierce attack of the rebels, the guards stationed at the General Staff were quickly wiped out by the rebels. Von Falkenhayn and other senior generals of the German army were all captured by the rebels. It was Zhao Maoki who directed the rebels to attack the General Staff. At the beginning, after he was dismissed, he left the General Staff in despair, and now, he finally stepped into the General Staff once again. Of course, returning to the General Staff headquarters in this way undoubtedly made Zhao Maoki feel a little twisted. But when they think that after their success, Crown Prince William will succeed to the throne and become emperor, they will not be rebels by then. Your Excellency, I didn't expect you to launch a mutiny. When von Falkenhayn saw the appearance of little Maoki, his face was full of shock and anger. Falkenhayn, you probably didn't expect that you would have such a day, right? Little Maoki laughed. Your Excellency, your conspiracy will not succeed. Even if you occupy Berlin and detain His Majesty the Emperor, you will surely fail. The army led by His Highness the Crown Prince can easily crush you all. Feng Falkenhayn said. Zhao Maoki couldn't help frowning. Indeed, their current strength is still too weak. Once Qin Tian led the army back to the country, he would easily crush them all to pieces. Falkenhayn, you don't have to worry. We have already figured out how to deal with His Royal Highness Oscar. Little Maoki laughed. Soon, His Majesty will send a telegram to His Royal Highness Oscar, asking him to return to Berlin. At that time, once he returns to Berlin, His Majesty will issue an edict to depose him as Crown Prince. Little Maoki continued. Falkenhayn's expression changed immediately. If Qin Tian didn't know anything about what happened in Berlin, he would undoubtedly be easily fooled. At that time, everything will fall into the hands of little Maoki and others. You will not succeed. God will bless His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. Von Falkenhayn said loudly. Come here, let our Chief of Staff stay, and watch him strictly. Little Maoki ordered. Von Falkenhayn and the generals and officers of the General Staff were arrested and locked in the conference room. Little Maoki stood in the office of the Chief of Staff that originally belonged to him, looking towards the direction of the palace. God bless, I hope everything goes well. Little Maoki said. Although, they thought they had already arranged everything properly. However, Zhao Maoki still has some doubts about whether he will succeed in the end. After all, in addition to the Praetorian Guards, their forces at most include the 4th Army of the Duke of Württemberg. Moreover, the 4th Army may not completely obey the orders of the Duke of Württemberg. Relatively speaking, the power Qin Tian possesses is simply too great. Once the news leaks, the consequences will be disastrous. The palace, the rebels have already broken into it. Under the protection of several guards, Lieutenant General Plitwitz entered the palace. Once, when he had a close relationship with William II, he could often be summoned by William II and enter the palace to have dinner with William II. However, since Qin Tian became the Crown Prince of the Empire, he never had such an opportunity again. Now, he has finally entered the palace again, which made Lieutenant General Plitwitz feel very satisfied in his heart. What's going on? William II woke up when the gunshot sounded. He comforted the Queen, put on his coat, and opened the door. Your Majesty, the palace has been attacked by unknown armed men. The housekeeper Essen von Jonelet reported in a panic. What? Unknown militants? How could the palace be attacked by unknown militants? This is the palace, the capital of the German Empire. Where are the Janissaries? What are they doing? William II was furious. Chapter 545. Behind the scenes. Berlin is the capital of the German Empire. The Imperial Palace is a symbol of imperial power in the German Empire. It stands to reason that the defense here should be the strictest. But now, it's under attack. You know, the army of the German Empire is now sweeping across Europe, and it is about to win this world war. But now, his palace has been attacked by unknown militants. Isn't this a slap in the face for the emperor? Call the Imperial Guards, and ask them to send troops immediately, to wipe out these bandits. I will hang them all. William II ordered through gritted teeth. Right now, he can be said to be in a rage. Yes, your majesty. Essen von Jonnereit immediately went to make a phone call. However, within a minute, he came back. Your majesty, I can't get through the phone. In addition, it is the Imperial Guards who attacked the palace. Essen von Jonnereit's face was pale. William II was also dumbfounded. How could it be? How could it be like this? How could the Imperial Guard attack the palace? William II was dumbfounded, as if he couldn't believe this fact at all. However, as the emperor, he immediately woke up. He knew that from now on, his empire would face an extremely severe test. Essen, immediately find a way to send news to Oscar and tell him the news of the mutiny in Berlin. William II looked serious. Although, he didn't know who led the mutiny this time. But he knew that now he, the emperor, was actually in crisis. Even, he might lose his life. In addition, Qin Tian, who led the army to fight abroad, would also become a serious thorn in the flesh of the person who launched the coup d'etat, and the other party would definitely do everything possible to get rid of Qin Tian. Therefore, he had to let Qin Tian know about the situation. Only when Qin Tian is safe can the empire have hope. He himself has the hope of escaping this catastrophe. Yes, your majesty. Essen von Jonnereit knew that the situation was urgent, so he went to make arrangements without any delay. Honey, what happened? At this time, the queen also put on her clothes and asked worriedly. It's okay, my dear, it's just some minor problems. You go back to the room. No matter what happens, you are not allowed to come out. William II said to the queen. But, my dear, I'm very worried, said the queen. Don't worry, there will be no problem. William II emphasized. The queen finally nodded, turned and returned to the room. William II went downstairs. As the emperor of a country, he wanted to see who dared to launch a mutiny. William II came to the hall of the palace, sat on his throne, and looked at the gate coldly. In the ears, there were continuous gunshots. This made William II's brows frown involuntarily. Not long after, the gunfire stopped. William II knew that the guards of the palace had been eliminated by the rebels. Boom. The door of the hall was pushed open. A group of guards rushed in and guarded every door in the hall. Then, a tall general walked in surrounded by rebels. King William II couldn't help shrinking his eyes slightly. Plitwitz, is that you? That's right, your majesty, it's me. Lieutenant General Plitwitz smiled. Why? Why did you launch a mutiny? William II looked indifferent. Once, he regarded Lieutenant General Plitwitz as his close friend. Now, let him serve as the general of the Imperial Guard, which undoubtedly shows that he is very relieved of Lieutenant General Plitwitz. But unexpectedly, Lieutenant General Plitwitz betrayed him. This feeling of being betrayed by his friends made William II very angry. Your Majesty, don't you know why I did this? Originally, I was supposed to be the commander of the 8th Army. In the end, you let that fellow Oscar take over. He not only robbed me the position of the commander of the army, has robbed me of the credit that originally belonged to me. Originally, I should have led the 8th Army to defeat the Russians on the Eastern Front. In that case, I could even be promoted to a marshal. Not now. It is still just I can only be a lieutenant general, and I don't even have the chance to go to the battlefield. Now, that guy Oscar has won another victory on the Western Front. Who knows if he will deal with me after the war is over. So, I can only start first to be strong. Lieutenant General Plitwitz had a look of hatred. King William II was stunned. He didn't expect that Lieutenant General Plitwitz would betray him for such a reason. Wilhelm II was very aware of the conflict between Lieutenant General Prittwitz and Qin Tian. However, he doesn't think the politicians will be jealous for so long. After all, he also has some understanding of Lieutenant General Prittwitz's ability. If he is really allowed to serve as the commander of the 8th Army, it will not be of any benefit to the German Empire. Therefore, when Qin Tian asked Lieutenant General Prittwitz to be transferred from the 8th Army, he nodded. But I didn't expect that it would get to the point where it is today. Prittwitz, did you betray me for such a reason? Have you forgotten that, if it weren't for me, you wouldn't be where you are today? William II was very angry. Your Majesty, you did promote me. Without you, I wouldn't be where I am today. But, that's my ugliness to you. I'm like a clown, telling you those colorful jokes to make you happy. Shouldn't you promote me? Lieutenant General Prittwitz asked rhetorically. King William II was silent for a moment. Indeed, the main reason he promoted Lieutenant General Prittwitz was because Lieutenant General Prittwitz was very good at making him happy. Originally, William II thought that he had promoted Lieutenant General Prittwitz and he would be grateful to him. But I didn't expect that the other party harbored resentment at all, but he never showed it. This made William II blame himself very much. Why he didn't see this guy's wolf ambition earlier. William II looked at the soldiers of the Imperial Guard. You are all warriors of the German Empire, my most loyal soldiers. Why did you rebel with this guy? If you continue to be loyal to me, I will pardon you for all the crimes committed by me. I guarantee that the past will not be blamed. William II wanted to instigate those rebel soldiers, but he was quickly disappointed. Some rebel soldiers lowered their heads in shame. However, there was no response to William II's words. Your Majesty, don't waste your efforts. They will no longer be loyal to you, because the object of their allegiance is another person. Lieutenant General Prittwitz said with a smile. Who? William II asked. He also wanted to know who was really behind the scenes. Chapter 546. Abdicate. Prittwitz, tell me, who is it? Who is behind all this? William II asked. Since instigating rebellion and nothing else will work, he has no other choice but to wait for a turning point. He firmly believes that this is his. No matter who it is impossible to overthrow him and take his empire away from him. Your Majesty, you will know soon. Lieutenant General Prittwitz smiled. The look he looked at William II was full of banter. This look made William II feel an unprecedented humiliation. Damn it, I must hang this guy. William II cursed in his heart. He secretly made up his mind that when he got out of trouble this time, Lieutenant General Prittwitz would definitely be hanged to let him know that the Emperor of the Empire could not be insulted. William II fell silent, and Lieutenant General Prittwitz did not continue to tease him. After all, that was the Emperor of the Empire, the object of his allegiance. Time passed little by little, and the mutiny of Crown Prince William and his accomplices went very smoothly. Before 12 o'clock in the evening, they had occupied the whole of Berlin. At the same time, important places such as railway stations and government buildings have also been controlled by them. In a secret manner on the outskirts of Berlin, Crown Prince William and Prince Ethel Friedrich are waiting here. Brother, why hasn't there been any news yet? Prince Ethel Friedrich was a little impatient. After all, this time they gambled their wealth and lives. If they fail, they are dead. Don't worry, there will be no problem. Crown Prince William seemed very calm. In other words, after having a vegetative experience, his whole body has changed a lot, and he is not as frizzy as before. Of course, another reason is that the mutiny has already started, and he has no way to retreat. Anyway, his right of succession to the throne has been lost. Even if it fails, the situation will not be worse than it is now. If he succeeds, he will be able to inherit the throne immediately. For Crown Prince William, this is undoubtedly what he has always dreamed of. Crown Prince William also believes that his luck will not be so bad every time. This time, they will definitely succeed. Your Highness, we succeeded. The whole of Berlin has been controlled by us. The Imperial Palace has also been taken by us. Marshal Gals reported to Crown Prince William with a smile on his face. Where is the father? How is he? Crown Prince William asked. Your Majesty has also been controlled. Marshal Goltz said. Haha, but it's really great. Brother, we really succeeded. Prince Ethel Friedrich cheered loudly. The heart that had been hanging all the time was finally put back in the stomach. There was also a smile on Crown Prince William's face. At this moment, it was as if all the pressure in his body had disappeared without a trace. At the same time, a feeling of joy rose in his heart. He knew that he was one step closer to the throne. Your Highness, let's go to the palace. We need to have a showdown with His Majesty immediately. If it's too late, I'm worried that the news will be revealed. Marshal Goltz said. Okay. Crown Prince William nodded. A group of people rushed to the Berlin Imperial Palace by car. After being pushed into the palace, Crown Prince William couldn't help becoming more and more nervous. After all, the person he wanted to force to abdicate this time was his father. William II loved him very much, since he was a child. Although sometimes harsh, Crown Prince William knew that it was for his own good. William II has always wanted to train him to be a qualified emperor. However, everything changed after Qin Tian suddenly emerged. The throne is mine, and no one can take it away, even if that person is my father. Crown Prince William secretly made up his mind. The door of the hall was opened, and William II immediately looked there. He didn't know that the Black Hand behind the scenes was about to appear. However, when he saw clearly who those people were, he couldn't help but froze. Little Mauki, his former chief of staff, is also his playmate who grew up together. Field Marshal Goltz, a veteran of the army, was his weighty field marshal. General Graf, another general of the Praetorian Guard, was also his trusted confidant. The Duke of Württemberg, leader of the Kingdom of Württemberg, commander of the 4th Army of the Imperial Army, was also his friend. These people were once trusted by William II as confidants. He didn't expect that these people would betray him. Of course, what really shocked William II was the man in the wheelchair and the man pushing the wheelchair. These two people are his sons. Pushing the wheelchair was his second son, Prince Ethel Friedrich. Sitting in a wheelchair was his eldest son, Prince, the former Crown Prince of the Empire. King William II took up his seat with a look of astonishment. Prince, are you awake? When did you wake up, and why didn't I know? William II asked. My dear father, aren't you putting all your energy on the war now? You are about to become the emperor of the whole of Europe. How can I, who has already lost the position of Crown Prince, be valued by you? Crown Prince William sneered. Although William II was his father, someone he once respected. However, when he learned that he had lost his position as Crown Prince, he no longer had respect for William II, but only resentment. King William II couldn't help blaming himself a little. As Crown Prince William fell asleep for longer and longer, he also lost confidence in Crown Prince William's waking up. In addition, after the outbreak of the war, he had a lot of important military and political affairs to deal with, so he did not manage Crown Prince William anymore. However, Crown Prince William betrayed him because of this, and planned this mutiny, which still made him unacceptable. Prince Ethel, do you have the guts to plan a mutiny? Who gave you the guts? Take your people, and get out of here immediately. I can deal with you lightly. Otherwise, you should know the consequences. William II said sternly. Prince Ethel Friedrich was frightened immediately, and almost wanted to turn around and run away. Even Crown Prince William couldn't help but hesitate. But then he puffed out his chest again. After all, now they have the upper hand. Father, is it still useful to say those things now? I advise you to recognize the reality. You once said that the throne belongs to me. So, please write the abdication letter now, and pass the throne to me. William the Crown Prince looked at William II, his eyes full of desire for the throne. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 547, The Death of the Emperor. At the beginning, Crown Prince William wanted to force William II to return the position of Crown Prince to him. However, later, under the persuasion of everyone, he decided to go a step further, that is, to let William II abdicate early, and he directly succeeded to the throne early. Compared with re-becoming the Crown Prince, it is undoubtedly more tempting and less troublesome to directly succeed to the throne as the Emperor. If he becomes the crown prince, William II is still the emperor, and the power is still in his hands. In other words, William II could depose him as crown prince again at any time, and that would be too unsafe. If you directly succeed to the throne and become emperor, there will be no such problems. After becoming the emperor, all the power is in his hands, and there is no one to restrain him. He can do whatever he wants, and no one can threaten him anymore. Compared with the two, Crown Prince William will naturally choose to directly succeed to the throne and become emperor. That would undoubtedly be more beneficial to him. Or, after seeing William II, Crown Prince William directly had a showdown. What? How dare you force me to abdicate? William II was furious. He never expected that Crown Prince William would dare to be so bold and have such great ambitions. This disappointed William II very much. After all, he loved Crown Prince William very much before. Even after Qin Tian showed his outstanding talent, he didn't immediately depose Crown Prince William's position. Instead, he waited until he became a vegetative state and let Qin Tian inherit the position as a last resort. In the eyes of William II, he has done his best to crown Prince William. But I didn't expect that Crown Prince William would treat him like this now. This made William II very disappointed and very sad in his heart. However, at the same time, he also felt a little lucky. That is, it was fortunate that the Crown Prince was passed on to Qin Tian. Otherwise, he would never have known that Crown Prince William was such a person. Father, you are already old, and it is time to enjoy your old age. The government affairs of the empire are so heavy, let me handle them. Crown Prince William said. Now, he has fully revealed his ambition for the throne. Now that this is the case, there is no way out at all. Therefore, he has only one way, to go to the dark. You are trying to usurp the throne. I absolutely do not agree. William II sternly refused. European monarchs have always been succeeded by the prince after his death. Those who abdicate early are very few. In addition, William II is also a person who is very fond of power. How could he easily hand over the power in his hands? That hurt him more than killing him. Father, don't be obsessed with it. Crown Prince William's face was ugly. He did not expect that under such circumstances, William II refused to pass on the throne to him. This also made Crown Prince William's thoughts even more extreme. In Crown Prince William's mind, the reason why William II was unwilling to pass on the throne to him was entirely because William II liked Qin Tian more. This made him unacceptable. After all, he had always been Wilhelm II's most distinguished son. He thought that Qin Tian couldn't compare with him except for his better luck. However, William II valued Qin Tian even more, which undoubtedly made him very jealous. Your Majesty, this is the end of the matter, and you seem to have no other choice. Lieutenant General Prittwitz said aside. The other generals who came with Crown Prince William also nodded repeatedly. They have launched a mutiny this time. If they fail, then they will only have a dead end. Under such circumstances, of course they will try their best to ensure success. If William II is obsessed with his obsession, then they will have to take a more extreme path. Prittwitz, you ungrateful guy, I won't let you go. William II stared fiercely at Lieutenant General Prittwitz. Lieutenant General Prittwitz couldn't help being frightened. After all, William II is the emperor. If William II survives this catastrophe, he will definitely be attacked. At that time, he will be dead. This also made Lieutenant General Prittwitz determined that this time the plan must be successful. Little Maoki, I have always regarded you as my closest friend. But I never thought that you would treat me like this. William II looked at Xiao Maoki. His eyes were full of disappointment. You know, they were playmates who grew up together. After he became the emperor, he even leaned on Little Maoki as his humorous and used him all the time. Even if Little Maoki made a big mistake while commanding the Western Front, he did not hold Little Maoki responsible, but only dismissed Little Maoki from his post. In William II's view, this is already special preferential treatment for Little Maoki. But now, Little Maoki is avenging him. Your Majesty, since you dismissed me, we have ceased to be friends. I'm certainly responsible for not being able to accomplish the intended goals in the Western Front, but the responsibility should not be entirely on me, right? You let I'll be the scapegoat. Can this still be considered a friend? Xiao Maoki questioned. King William II was suddenly speechless. Indeed, the Western Front failed to achieve the intended goal, and there are many reasons for this. But, who made Little Malky the commander? If he doesn't come out and take responsibility, who will? We can't let William II take the responsibility himself. Father, our time is running out. Please issue an abdication edict. Crown Prince William urged. The reason why they launched a mutiny this time was able to succeed entirely because William II was not prepared. The longer the delay, the more prone to accidents. After all, the army in their hands is only more than 10,000 Imperial Guards. Once it is noticed by others, or if Qin Tian, who is far away in France, knows, the consequences will be unimaginable. Qin Tian sent troops into Berlin casually, and he was able to suppress them. Therefore, they could only seize the time as much as possible and force William II to abdicate before Qin Tian and others could react. In the name of William II, he tricked Qin Tian to Berlin and put him under house arrest. At that time, it will be considered a success. Delusion. I will never abdicate. William II gritted his teeth and said, Father, don't force me. Crown Prince William was furious. Forcing you? Are you forcing me, or am I forcing you? You bastard. William II was furious and rushed to Crown Prince William's body in 2 or 3 steps and slapped him across the face. Snapped. Crown Prince William received a slap with such force that he was slapped directly under the wheelchair. Half of his face was swollen and a trace of blood was left along the corner of his mouth. Damn it. I'll kill you. Crown Prince William was furious and directly pulled out his pistol. Boom. Gunshots rang out. William II clutched his chest and fell to the ground in disbelief. Chapter 548. Trick. Got. No, how could this happen? A scream sounded. I saw that Queen Victoria dashed down from the upstairs and ran to King William II, holding his hand, tears streaming down her face. Blood gushed out of William II's mouth continuously, and the blood from the wound on his body stained the carpet red. William II wanted to say something, but the blood that kept coming out made him unable to say anything. Soon, Wilhelm II's head was on one side, and his life was lost. Everyone was stunned, and no one expected that things would turn out like this. Even Crown Prince William, who shot, didn't seem to have thought that he would do such a thing. Got. What the asterisk did I do? I actually killed my father. Crown Prince William murmured. Prince, what are you doing? Why did you kill your father? Queen Victoria asked angrily. Originally, Queen Victoria was still very happy to see Crown Prince William awake. But I didn't expect that it would turn out like this in the end. Ethel, send your mother upstairs. Crown Prince William seemed to be afraid to look at Queen Victoria because of a guilty conscience, so he had to tell his brother. Ethel. Prince Friedrich was obviously frightened. In his eyes, the current Crown Prince William has become a complete stranger. That is the person who can even kill his own father. Queen, let's go upstairs. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince will take care of the matter here. After finishing speaking, Prince Ethel Friedrich took her upstairs regardless of Queen Victoria's resistance. Crown Prince William looked at the crowd and wanted to explain, but he didn't know how to explain. After all, he shot and killed Wilhelm II, which was seen by everyone, and it is already undeniable. Everyone, I think this should be a misunderstanding, and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince doesn't want this either. Lieutenant General Pritwitz explained for Crown Prince William. Yes, this is a complete misunderstanding. His Majesty the Emperor attacked His Highness the Crown Prince, and His Highness the Crown Prince did this in self-defense. The Duke of Württemberg also said. Although, Crown Prince William shot and killed William II, which shocked them all. However, they then thought that the matter had come to this point, so they couldn't give up halfway because of this. In that case, all efforts will be in vain. Others had no choice but to agree. After all, they are already on the verge of riding a tiger. Crown Prince William couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when he heard what everyone said. Everyone cannot pursue it, but instead excuse him, which makes him no longer have to worry. Everyone, what should we do now? The Emperor is dead, so how should we write the Edict of Abdication? How can we trick Oscar back to Berlin? Crown Prince William asked. Your Highness, Since His Majesty is dead, we can only forge the Edict of Abdication. As for His Highness Oscar, we must find a way to lure him back to Berlin and put him under house arrest. Otherwise, our plan will be impossible. It was successful. His Highness Oscar has commanded too many troops. Once he does not approve the edict, we will have nothing to do. In terms of strength, we simply cannot compare with His Royal Highness Oscar. He has so many troops in his hands. It can easily crush us. Little Maoki said. Although, the death of his old friend made him feel bad. But for Xiaomoki, the arrow is on the string now, and he has to do it. Although William II did not kill him, he was also related to him. If they failed, once Qin Tian pursued it, Xiaomoki knew that he would surely die. For the sake of his own life, he must also actively make suggestions to ensure that they can succeed this time. Yes, His Royal Highness Oscar is too powerful. The entire navy follows his orders. Among the army, the 4 newly formed legions are all commanded by his people, plus the 8th legion under his own command. Among the 12 legions, 5 are directly under his control, including the Bavarian 6th legion. He has already controlled half of the army. He can more or less influence the other legions. Once he discovers the problem, then we have no chance of winning. The Duke of Württemberg also said. Hearing that Qin Tian has mastered so many troops, Crown Prince William's face was also very ugly. Of course, more of it was jealousy towards Qin Tian. Even when he was the Crown Prince, he didn't have such a big influence. If he didn't become a vegetative state, once the battle started, he could only command 1 legion at most. This made Crown Prince William's jealousy towards Qin Tian aggravated a lot. No, Oscar's life is always a huge threat to me. He has such a great influence in the army. If he wants to harm me, then I don't even have a chance to resist. This time, if I can trick him into coming to Berlin, I will definitely not allow him to live any longer. Crown Prince William made up his mind. Perhaps this is how people are. Once they have experienced it for the first time, they will no longer be afraid. So did Crown Prince William. After killing William II, he was charged with a crime of killing his father. Even if he added a crime of killing his brother, it would be nothing. As the saying goes, if you have too many debts, you will not worry, and if you have too many lice, you will not itch. How about we send a telegram directly to the front line, in the name of His Majesty the Emperor, let His Highness Oscar come back, to report on his duties. Marshal Goltz suggested. No, although the Western Front war has won a major victory, it is not over yet. There is still some time before the debriefing. Little Maoki shook his head. Then what should we do? Crown Prince William was a little anxious. Now, it can be said that he has no way out. If not successful, the consequences can be imagined. Therefore, he must do everything possible to win. Your Highness, why don't you use His Majesty's serious illness as an excuse to call His Highness Oscar back to Berlin? After all, he is the Crown Prince now. If His Majesty falls seriously ill, he may even die soon. As the Prince of the Empire, the future Emperor, of course he must come first. The time has come back, Xiaomoki said. Crown Prince William thought for a while, then nodded. Just use this method. Yes, Your Highness. Everyone else replied. William II, who was no longer alive, was settled down. It is definitely not possible to hold a funeral for him now, until everything is settled. In another time and space, William II lived to be 82 years old. But in this time and space, he only lived to be 56 years old. Chapter 549, Upheaval. France, Paris, Versailles, German Western Front Command. After the Battle of Paris, Qin Tian was not so busy for the time being. Although, the battle continues. But the British and French allied forces are no longer the opponents of the German army. When most of the troops are in attendance, they are always on the march. Manstein, after the French battlefield is calmed down, it's time to land in England. However, it is not so easy to land in England. This is a huge and complex systematic project. We have to plan it carefully. Qin Tian said. In Qin Tian's plan, he wants to land in the British mainland and wipe out the UK. Then, the German army must send at least 3 legions to land in Britain. If the battle is not going well, 1 or 2 more legions will have to be added. In that case, it is necessary to prepare millions of people to land in the UK to fight. It is undoubtedly unique in history to dispatch millions of people to launch a landing operation. Therefore, this must be a very complicated project. All aspects need to be considered. Otherwise, once an error occurs, it may cause a chain reaction and cause major losses. Rear Admiral Manstein nodded. Your Highness, the General Staff has already started planning related aspects. In addition, the Navy is also preparing. During the previous blockade of the United Kingdom, the Navy captured a large number of British and American merchant ships. Is it? Those merchant ships can provide logistical support for the troops landing in the UK. Generally speaking, the problem should not be too big. In addition, the most elite troops of the British Army are almost concentrated in their expeditionary forces. If we can wipe out all those British expeditionary forces on the French battlefield, it will be tantamount to a heavy blow to the British Army. Even if they mobilize more troops on the mainland, so what? I guess they don't even have the equipment. Facing the elite troops of the Imperial Army, they are even more vulnerable. If everything goes well, about 2 or 3 armies, we can sweep the UK. In this case, we will not need to send too many troops to the UK. In terms of the Navy's capabilities, it should be very easy to guarantee hundreds of thousands of troops. Rear Admiral Manstein continued. Qin Tian nodded, agreeing with Major General Manstein's point of view. The current German Navy is no longer what it used to be. Even compared with another time and space, there has been a fundamental change. The strength of the German Navy has become truly #1 in the world. Of course, in terms of shipbuilding strength, Germany may still be inferior to the United States. But when Germany defeats the United Kingdom and integrates all of Britain's shipbuilding capabilities, Germany's shipbuilding capabilities will be greatly improved, and Germany will become the real #1 in the world. Your Highness, when the time comes to send those legions to land in the British mainland, I'm afraid you have to think about it again. Major General Manstein reminded. Qin Tian was taken aback when he heard the words, then nodded. This time to attack Paris, only 4 armies were dispatched. It was more or less a blow to the rest of the regiments on the Western Front. The next time they land on the British mainland to fight, the various legions must be looking forward to it. How to choose really gave Qin Tian a headache. However, no matter what, it must be based on winning the war, and that is the most important thing. Everything else can be put aside. At this moment, a staff officer walked in. Report, Your Highness. There is an urgent telegram from Berlin. After the officer finished speaking, he handed the telegram to Qin Tian. After reading the telegram, Qin Tian's expression became very ugly. Your Highness, has something happened? Major General Manstein asked. The telegram said that His Majesty was suddenly seriously ill, and it seemed that he would not be able to last for a few days. He asked me to rush to Berlin immediately to preside over the overall situation. Qin Tian said. What? How is this possible? Manstein was astonished, unable to believe this fact. After all, William II's health has always been very good. How could it be possible to become seriously ill all of a sudden and be on the verge of dying? This is so strange. Qin Tian was also surprised. He clearly remembered that in another time and space, William II lived a very long life. He lived to be 82 years old. The current William II is only 56 years old. How could he die so soon? Could it be that after he was reborn in this world, would the history here also change? Your Highness, I think you should hurry back to Berlin as soon as possible. After all, you are the Prince of the Empire. Once something happens to Your Majesty, you need to stabilize the situation. Manstein said. Qin Tian nodded. Send a telegram to the commanders of the legions on the front line. Let us continue to attack according to the predetermined plan. If there is anything, just send the telegram to me. Yes, Your Highness. Manstein nodded. Today's communication is very advanced. Even if Qin Tian is in Berlin, he can command the frontline operations. What's more, now that it is sent to the territory, there will be no big battles. With the main force of the British and French coalition forces lost, it is simply impossible to counter the German army. The next battle was more like an armed parade. When Qin Tian was ready to return to Berlin overnight, another telegram arrived. This telegram was not sent in the name of William II, but was sent by Qin Tian's confidant, Karl von Jonnerett. Karl von Jonnerett told Qin Tian that there was a mutiny in Berlin. The whole of Berlin is now under the control of the rebels. The imperial palace has also been captured by the rebels, so Qin Tian should be careful. When Qin Tian received this telegram, he was very surprised and almost thought it was a fake. After all, Berlin is the capital of the German Empire. How could it be easily captured by the rebels? Besides, where did the rebels come from? When Qin Tian asked someone to contact Karl von Jonnerit to confirm the authenticity of the telegram, no one replied. This made Qin Tian's heart sink continuously. It seems that something really happened in Berlin. Otherwise, Karl would not have refused to reply to my telegram. This can only mean that he has been killed or is hiding. Therefore, there is no way to reply to my telegram, Qin Tian said with a dark face. As Qin Tian expected, after Karl von Jonnerit got the news from his father, he immediately sent Qin Tian that telegram, and then immediately went into hiding. He is Qin Tian's confidant, which is well known by everyone. The rebels of Crown Prince William will never let him go. Your Highness, if this is the case, then Berlin is quite dangerous. The expression on Major General Manstein's face also became very serious. Chapter 550, Lord of the Admiralty's Choice. Wilhelmshaven, the home port of the German High Seas Fleet. After defeating the British Navy at a small cost in the decisive battle at sea, the German Navy has become the veritable number one in the world. Those warships damaged in the naval battle are being repaired. Most of the other battleships also suffered minor injuries, and they are also entering the shipyard for repairs one after another. But even so, the strength of the German Navy has not been reduced much. Now, for the German Navy, there are only two main tasks for them. One is to continue to blockade the United Kingdom and prevent merchant ships from other countries from entering the United Kingdom to bring various supplies to the United Kingdom. Even when the British fishing boat was found, it was destroyed. In order to defeat Britain, Germany apparently planned to completely blockade Britain into a dead island. Another task is to prepare for the army's landing in the UK. Now, the army has achieved a decisive victory on the French battlefield. The main force of the Anglo-French coalition has been wiped out. It is only a matter of time before the British and French allied forces are completely defeated. After the defeat of France at one point, it was the turn of Britain to attack next. The German Minister of the Navy, Marshal Count Tirpitz, went to Wilhelmshaven precisely to implement the plan, to provide cover and support for the army. Not only that, hundreds of thousands of troops landed in the British Isles, and the logistical support also needed to be guaranteed by the Navy. This makes the task of the Navy in this battle very difficult. The main combat fleet will be responsible for providing fire support and protection to the army. The logistics fleet transports ammunition and other supplies for the army. There is so much that needs to be coordinated. At the time of the upheaval in Berlin, Count and Marshal Tirpitz had already rested. After all, he is old now, and his energy is also not as good as before. When the rebels attacked the Admiralty, the remaining officers of the Admiralty immediately sent a telegram to Wilhelmshaven, reporting to them that they were attacked by the Janissaries. The officer on duty did not dare to neglect, and immediately reported the matter to Marshal Earl Tirpitz. What's going on? Is the guard's brain caught by the door? How did they attack the Admiralty? Marshal Earl Tirpitz was furious. Marshal, will there be any accidents? Asked Marshal von Pohl, Chief of Naval Staff. There should be no accidents. I asked the staff to send another telegram to contact the Admiralty. However, I didn't hear back again. Marshal Count von Tirpitz said. Suddenly, the hearts of the admirals in the office kept sinking. They also realized that something must have happened in Berlin. Otherwise, the Praetorian Guards would never attack the Admiralty. After the German Navy defeated the British Navy, they can be regarded as the most powerful navy in the world. At the same time, the German Navy is also a major contributor to Germany's victory in this war. William II will definitely not attack the Navy at this time. Besides, although the German Navy has a close relationship with Qin Tian, it is still loyal to Wilhelm II. What's more, the current war is not over yet. Even if it is to kill the donkey, it is too early, isn't it? Therefore, the senior generals of the German Navy are a little confused. Do we have other channels to contact Berlin? We need to figure out what happened there. Marshal Count Tirpitz said. Your Excellency Marshal, we are already working hard. But, so far, there is no news. A staff officer said, "Your Excellency, Marshal, could it be that there was a mutiny in Berlin? It was the guards who rebelled. Otherwise, such a situation would never have happened." Admiral Reinhard Scheer, commander of the High Seas Fleet, said. As the commander of the High Seas Fleet, he also led the High Seas Fleet to defeat the British Royal Navy. It is foreseeable that after the end of this war, Admiral Reinhard Scheer will be able to get his wish to be promoted again and become Admiral of the Navy. He didn't want any trouble to happen before he was promoted. In that case, the situation will be troublesome. Mutiny? The Imperial Guard is His Majesty's most loyal unit. How could it be possible to mutiny? Marshal von Pohl, Chief of Naval Staff, shook his head. Nothing is impossible. Since the Admiralty has been attacked, we can't reach Berlin yet. Then, there is only one possibility. Therefore, we have to take countermeasures immediately. Marshal Earl Tirpitz seemed I've made up my mind. Your Excellency, Marshal, what are you going to do? Marshal von Pohl asked. Order the 1st Division of the Marine Corps to assemble immediately. In 2 hours, take the train to Berlin. Marshal Earl Tirpitz ordered. With the help of Qin Tian, the German Navy established a Marine Corps. Although the scale is small, only 5 divisions. However, it is the route of elite soldiers. Except for the training in landing operations, everything else is no different from the infantry division of the army. Originally, Marshal Earl Tirpitz planned to let the Marine Corps shine in the battle, to land in the UK. But I didn't expect that there is trouble in Berlin now. Then, the only way is for the Marine Corps to make an early appearance. Your Excellency Marshal, it is a felony to mobilize troops to Berlin without an order. The faces of the people present suddenly changed drastically. In particular, Marshal von Bohr even spoke out to persuade him. No, but now, we can't sit still. Berlin can't be contacted, and the Admiralty is under attack. Maybe, the safety of His Majesty the Emperor is not guaranteed. As His Majesty's subjects, we must respond immediately. That's fine. I've already decided that, if there's any responsibility, it's up to me, said Marshal Count Tirpitz. The other generals, seeing that Marshal Earl Tirpitz had made up his mind, had no choice but to stop persuading them. Your Excellency, Marshal, I think we should contact His Highness the Crown Prince. There has been a mutiny in Berlin, and His Highness the Crown Prince must be very anxious. Lieutenant General Hipper suggested. Marshal Count Tirpitz nodded. If there is a mutiny in Berlin, then it is likely to be aimed at the Crown Prince. The Navy's development to this point is inseparable from the support of the Crown Prince. Therefore, if someone wants to target His Highness the Crown Prince, hurt him, or rob him of his position as the Crown Prince, the Navy will absolutely not agree. I will send a telegram to His Royal Highness, but the 1st Division of the Marine Corps must do it right away. Get ready. Don't waste too much time. The other admirals nodded. They all agreed with the view of Marshal Earl Tirpitz, that His Royal Highness the Crown Prince is the object of allegiance to the Navy. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.